What's going on, San Diego? Jon and Jim on a Thursday. You know, Brent, after sleeping on it for a night, I don't hate the Jimmy Butler trade as much as I did when it went down yesterday afternoon about the 5:15-ish range.
Did you have an epiphany or something?
Not an epiphany. I had.
It's close enough.
Epiphany. John's not here to correct me. He's the stable part of this show, and he is very good at pronouncing words, unlike me. But I had a epiphany last night that it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Okay.
We'll get into the entirety of the crazy trade deadline coming up later this hour. I think it's one of the, if not the wildest trade deadlines in NBA history. We'll recap all of that. Great show lineup for you guys today. Kyle Glaser is going to join us today at 4 p.m. talking everything Padres. John Ireland, voice of the Lakers. He's going to join us at 5 p.m. to talk about Luka's debut this Saturday. But we'll start with the news of the day in Padres land, and it's official. Jon Seidler has been approved as the new control person of the San Diego Padres. That to me is not like shocking news. It's not what? When the lawsuit dropped about a month ago, that was a what type of moment. This was a almost formality. This was something that, according to reports and Kevin and Dennis and everybody, this was gonna happen. It was just about when. And it was this morning. Major League Baseball owners unanimously voted him in as the control person of the Padres. It takes about 30 days where then he will be in charge of the trust. So that's how long it takes for the transfer to take place. So when you think about it, spring training starts next week, or at least pitchers and catchers report next week. Usually in the past, whether it was Eric Katsenda, who was the interim control person, or Peter or Ron, they would usually speak pretty quickly when spring training got underway, because it's almost like a owner summit for the Padres. Like, you speak and then you get into spring training. I don't know if Jon Seidler will be there. I don't know if Jon Seidler is going to speak right away. I would assume that's going to take a little bit of time, because if it takes 30 days for the transfer,
first spring training games on the 21st.
Okay, so will Jon Seidler speak before the first spring training game? I think that's a good prop bet to put out there. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, unanimously voted in today as the control person for the team. But that wasn't the biggest news, Brent. That was something that we knew. We knew that was going to happen. The biggest news of the day is we actually know what Jon Seidler looks like. Definitively. We have
like 2 photos of him now.
Well, we had one photo from
1943.
From like the 70s or the 80s. I mean, this was a black and white photo, and you're like, okay, that's all we got. That's the only photo I can find of Jon Seidler.
I love how you equate a black and white photo to the 70s.
Well,
they had color photos.
but here's the thing. It's a photo of the entire Seidler O'Malley family, and you had little baby Matt in the photo as well. And I believe he's either in his early 40s or late 30s. I don't know exactly how old Matt Seidler is, but he's not anywhere close to how old Peter was and John is. And it's still black and white. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, if if Matt's in the photo and it's still black and white, it's got to be like the 80s or like the early 80s or the late 70s. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, Kevin Acee posted a photo in his story today of Jon Seidler and his wife. I don't know exactly what game it was. Maybe he detailed that, but he's in a Padres jersey. He's waving a yellow towel. I'm gonna assume it's at a playoff game. So we know what Jon Seidler looks like. He is an actual real person. He exists. He's not some like person that we'll never ever see or we'll have to wonder what he looks like for the foreseeable future.
It would have been funny if the press release, they just sort of like gave out a photo of like, and it was all blurry, like those Bigfoot photos. It was like, here's Jon.
Here he
Take
is.
a good look, soak it in.
So we know what he looks like, which is great. I mean, he just looks like an average person. If you're wondering what Jon Seidler looks like, I have him on my Twitter feed. It's everywhere out there now on X and social media. And he's wearing a Padres jersey. It's interesting. I think that it was very calculated. This is my putting my tin hat on. This is very calculated that the very first legitimate photo we see of Jon Seidler on the interwebs is him in a Padres jersey waving a yellow towel. I think it's coordinated. It's to me like that's by no mistake. You know, Kevin posted that photo in his article today, and I'm like, okay, we know what he looks like. So we got that out of the way, right? We have visual evidence of the new Padres control person, Jon Seidler. We know what Matt and Robert look like, the two in the lawsuit that are fighting with Shield. So that's great. I see some people saying like, oh, is that an AI generated photo of Jon? Like, no, it's not. It's what I assume to be a photo that might have been given to Kevin to post, because now that it is approved, you know, fans are going to want to see what he looks like. And so posting this photo is a very PR-y photo that we have of Jon Seidler.
Well, at least we have a face now to put with a name. You know,
exactly.
I think that could make a difference for some people, just because, you know, instead of just him being this, you know, faceless entity in the background, now he has a face. Now we know what he looks like. So now when, you know, you talk about him, you can picture him, opposed to just, you know, some, you know, shady businessman in the shadows or whatever. So,
well, it's also very, I think, coordinated that now that Padres fans know what Jon Seidler looks like, the very first thing that they think of is him in a Padres uniform. It is very calculated to me that photo of him in a Padres uniform is now out there. I don't think it's by any surprise. You could find someone else take a photo of him and put it out there, you know, but him in a Padres uniform, waving a yellow rally towel, like that is very coordinated to me, because I've already seen it on social media. Hey, he's a Padres fan. That's great. Let's ride. I'm all good. Some fans, that's all they need. Some fans that they're you know, you can win them over very easily. Some other fans, not so much. And I get it. But, you know, yes, we'll get into the article that Dennis wrote today, which doesn't make you feel great, but knowing what Jon looks like and knowing, okay, this is who is going to be going forward for the foreseeable future, essentially, as the Padres control person who will be speaking to the fans, who, when we think of, hey, this team needs to spend money, or hey, I can't believe they haven't made any moves, or hey, why are they making any trades, or hey, why didn't they give a contract extension to X player? You're going to put now Jon Seidler and this photo in your mind at the front of it. That's who you now view when you think of the Padres and spending money and signing players. Like, yes, AJ Preller makes the moves, but it's also very important to know who is the person that AJ goes and reports to. And that is now official. It is Jon Seidler. He is approved. And again, I don't think it's any coincidence that the first photo you all have seen of Jon Seidler is him in a Padres jersey, which I think is a smart move. If I'm being honest, I think it's smart. The last thing you would want is to see Jon Seidler, just wearing like a hoodie. And now again, Peter was a guy that just wore a hoodie and looked like he had baggy clothes, and he, ended up being the best owner in this town's sports history. So again, it doesn't really matter what they essentially look like per se, but knowing the amount of bad PR that this team has got in the last month since the lawsuit has dropped, and how much flack they are under as far as, moving forward and who the control person is, putting Jon out there in a Padres uniform, waving a yellow rally towel, smiling. Like, I think that is a good thing to have be done. Now, it was Kevin that posted it. It wasn't the Padres. So maybe Kevin did get this photo from somewhere else, or maybe he took the photo. I don't know. But however this photo got obtained by Kevin, it's a very, I think, one of the first smart PR moves that they have made in this offseason after all the reports of slashing payroll again and the reports of trading Dylan Cease or Michael King and the lack of spending money and not bringing back Jerson Profar. Is this going to win over the fan base? No, it's not. Is this going to make everybody forget about this lawsuit? No, it's not. But I do think some fans will view this as, okay, he's one of us. Great. And maybe that's all you need. Me, I'm a little different. I need a lot more than that. I could care less if he's wearing a Padres jersey or not. It doesn't hurt. It helps. I think for some fans, it really does help. I've already seen it. Hey, he's a Padres fan. Let's go. Great. Now you have to go forward. And what is he going to do to, quote unquote, uphold the legacy of his brother, Peter? Wearing a jersey, waving a rally towel. It's a good first impression. I think it's a good first impression to Padres fans. But you're going to need a lot more. A lot more. And it would behoove them to, whenever the trust is passed, which is, I think, in at least the next 30 days, whenever it becomes, official, then he's going to need to speak. And then we go from there. But I think if I'm, going to be positive here, and we'll talk about the negative coming up next segment. If I'm going to be positive, it's a good, I guess it's a good first visual impression. Now you're going to have to hear him speak, and you're going to have to hear his vision for the team, and then everything could absolutely change. But a visual first impression, wearing a Padres uniform at Petco Park, that is a good PR move. There's still a lot that has to be done. The lawsuit is still out there. Sheil and her claim to be the control person of the team, like, all of that is still out there. By no means does what happened today completely end that saga with Matt and Bob. But having Jon's first visual evidence of life be him in a Padres uniform, I think that is one tiny good step forward. But then when you read what Dennis had to write today, it feels like a step backwards. You're going to hear that coming up next. Kyle Glaser is going to join the show at 4 p.m. and John Ireland, voice of the Lakers, at 5. Stay right here on San Diego Sports 760. All right, back here on Jon and Jim. Kyle Glaser is going to join us at 4 p.m. John Ireland at 5. We also have a pair of Aztec tickets once again to give away. We'll give away those at 4:45 during Train Wreck Radio. And also, stay listening. We have a pair of tickets to give away for Simple Minds on Saturday, 24th at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. We'll give away those coming up here this hour. One of the, I think, dumbest things to actually put any credence to is the notion that the Padres were going to move. That is, I think if anybody has to try to confirm that, and then they take that as like guys, the Padres aren't moving. Like, yeah, no, they're not moving.
That's a scoop.
Wow. Your dog could tell you that the Padres aren't moving. Bentley, my dog, could tell me the Padres aren't moving.
The fact they spent all that money redoing Gallagher Square and all that, they're not.
It's
anywhere.
I think, complete non-story in this whole thing. I know that it was put in the lawsuit, but it was never a definitive from Shield. It was mostly used, I think, as a scare tactic. And it was said, I don't have the actual lawsuit in front of me, but she essentially said she is afraid if John and Matt and Bob and they're in control, she's afraid that maybe one day they move the team. That was never going to happen. It's stupid. All right. So if today you hear from somebody, don't worry, guys. They said once again the Padres aren't moving. Yeah, duh. So Dennis Lynn wrote, and also Kevin Acey did write today. And one of the things that I took away from what I read today was this. Seidler, who is 65 years old, John, could soon oversee, and this was before he got officially approved, a team that won 93 games last season and took the eventual World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers to the brink in the National League Division Series. Here's the key part. Yet, after spending record sums under Peter Seidler, the Padres have operated with a significantly tighter budget for a second consecutive winner. Similar restraint is expected to continue under John Seidler, at least in the short term. So, similar restraint when it comes to spending money, according to Dennis Lynn and other reports, is expected to continue under John Seidler, at least in the short term. What does short term mean is my first question. And my next question is, okay, so are you going to continue to do what you've done this offseason, which is spend no money? I got to know how long the short term is here for John, because that is that's something I read and a little scary. Because, like I said, I could care less what John looks like. It's nice that he's in a Padres uniform. That's great. Y'all remember what Peter looked like? Peter was the most average looking human being on the planet. At times, you're wondering, like, hey, are you ever going to get clothes that fit you? Yet he spent an ungodly amount of money on this baseball team to try to win its first World Series. And frankly, I think as a fan, that's all I'd care about. Hey, are you going to put the necessary resources into this team year in and year out to win a World Series? Or are you going to remain what you have been doing as a franchise the last 2 years and spend no money? So how long is the short term is one of my first questions. Do you expect to operate under these spending restrictions for the next couple years, for the next just 1 year? Is this the last year of spending no money? Like, how long is it going to take? That to me isn't something I'd want to see if I was a Padres fan. It's not something I like seeing. I don't want to hear the new control person come in and immediately right away hear about, not spending money and budgets and restraint, because they are not in a position as a franchise right now, I feel like, to just settle and be okay with doing that. You are at a moment in your franchise's history where you got these players under contract for a certain amount of time. And if you are not doing everything you possibly can to maximize that, then we have a problem. You look what happened in the NBA yesterday. So the Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler, right? For the long-term future of the Warriors, makes no sense. It's stupid. But what they're doing is they're trying everything they possibly can in the here and now to maximize on the remaining Steph Curry years with the team. And that's how I view it with Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts. Tatis is here forever. And he's, in his mid-20s, so he's not going to age here in the next 5 years like Manny will and like Xander will, but especially Manny, especially Xander. And oh, by the way, especially guys that are, under contract for just this year in Dylan Cease and Michael King, Luis Ariz. To capitalize on the moment at hand should be the main focus of this team. And so when I see right away when the new control person is approved, similar budget restraints is expected to continue under John Seidler, at least in the short term. Yeah, I don't like it. So the one tiny step forward today, and the bar's low right now, seeing John in a Padres uniform, cheering at Petco Park, really good first impression as far as visually goes. We'll have to hear him speak. But then when I read that, it's just a step back to me. So we'll talk more about that coming up later in the show. But coming up next, the wildest NBA trade deadline in history. We'll talk about that next right here on Jon Jim.
This report is sponsored by eBay. Today was the end of the NBA trade deadline. We had a few more trades to close out one of the craziest trade deadlines in years. The Lakers made another trade, acquiring center Mark Williams for the Hornets for Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, a 2031 unprotected first-round pick, and a 2030 pick swap. Williams averaged 16 points on just under 60% shooting and 10 rebounds for the Hornets this season. Kevin Durant was not traded from the Suns, so he will stay with Phoenix. And finally, according to ESPN, the Nets are working on a buyout for forward Ben Simmons. In NFL news, Chicago Bears owner Virginia McCaskey died today at the age of 102. Make sure to catch the Aztecs this Saturday night when they go on the road to take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage starts at 6 o'clock. Uncle Teddy will have the tip shortly after 7. Swapping out your tires? There's nothing like it. With eBay, you'll find the feel you're looking for, from smooth highway rides to grip for rough terrain. Get all the tires you need at prices you'll love. eBay, things people love.
All right, so it is Super Bowl week, and I thought it was fun. I saw something last night on social media, Brent, and it was a meme of someone pretending like they're Adam Silver talking to Roger Goodell, like sabotaging Super Bowl week to take it over because they took over Christmas from them.
Yeah.
Don't worry. The NFL is still going to get 120 million plus people watching the game on Sunday. So Roger Goodell does not care. But the talking points this week, I think, have been, and I might be in a bubble, but at least what I've seen on social media and on television and the coverage, the NBA took over Super Bowl week with the amount of insane trades and things that have happened. So to just give like a rundown of everything that you may have missed. So it started on Saturday night when Luka gets traded to the Lakers. Then Anthony Davis goes to the Mavericks. Fox goes to the Spurs. Jimmy goes to the Warriors. Zach LaVine goes to the Kings. Kyle Kuzma to the Bucks. Chris Middleton to the Wizards. And Brandon Ingram goes to the Raptors. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 All-Stars were on the move this trade deadline. And not just like 7 All-Stars and they're all washed. You got potential MVPs in there. You got multiple time All-Stars. You got Western Conference Finals MVPs. You got champions. I think that the NBA trade deadline this year, I'm not going to go on this like crazy limb and have this crazy take of it saved the NBA, because no. But it sure as hell helped the NBA. It absolutely did, because now, you know how many people are going to be watching tomorrow's game? Or not tomorrow, Saturday's game, Luka's debut? You know how many people are going to want to see what's going to happen with Jimmy Butler with the Warriors and what Anthony Davis looks like with the Mavericks? And, hey, can, Fox help out the Spurs and Wemby get in a playoff? Like, I think that what the NBA trade deadline did now is it took the NBA, which was kind of stagnant, and it just, boom, rejuvenated it. I'm not saying that this was a coordinated type of trade deadline, but I bet you that Adam Silver's sitting in his office somewhere in New York smiling after what happened to the trade deadline, because they've taken over the most of the content on Super Bowl week from a Nationals perspective, in my opinion.
It was almost a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Because you had trades involving huge,
massive
mega
stars.
And then you had a gigantic nothing burger happening at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Every day. There's nothing coming out. There's always,
there is one story that we'll get to later in the show that's coming out of the Super Bowl that actually kind of popped up earlier today. But other than this story, you're right. I mean,
but usually Super Bowl week, it's like every day, even if it's, a stupid story. There's some story coming out of, wherever
Patrick
the Super
Mahomes
Bowl
said
is.
this, or Jalen Hurts said that.
I remember back in the day when they're going to New Orleans, so-and-so was out at a club and got arrested, trying to get a hooker or something. There's always something that was happening to where it's like, all eyes are on the Super Bowl or all eyes are on New Orleans. It's just this week. It's like, yeah, they're there and they play on Sunday. And that's the news.
Because Sunday will be a massive watch, obviously. But during the week, people, I mean, the last night, the fact that Kevin Durant was about to go back to the Warriors, and then he said, nah, I don't want to go back there. And then that turned into a Jimmy Butler trade to the Warriors. And then now the Suns are trying to look for somewhere else to trade Kevin Durant. And then he ends up not getting traded. And there's a bunch of turmoil there in Phoenix. The Lakers make a trade for a center from Charlotte. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, this team is actually pretty good now with LeBron and Luka. And they got Austin Reeves. They got some good pieces there. And you'll see what happens with the Mavericks. I mean, everyone hates the Mavericks. If you're a Mavericks fan, you hate them. But I mean, you can't deny that Anthony Davis is there now with Kyrie Irving, which is going to be a good pairing.
And if you're Dallas and you're going to have the biggest chip on your shoulder now because everyone just hates you for no reason.
Well, if you are Nico Harrison, you definitely want this to work because if it doesn't work, he's going to get crucified even more than he is now and probably fired. But
yeah, people are wanting them to fail now. So now if you're Kyrie and it's I didn't do anything. It's now all of a sudden everyone hates us and wants us to fail. So, we'll see if that maybe motivates them to just shut all the haters up. We'll see.
I absolutely love this trade deadline. It was great.
It definitely made the season more interesting.
That it did. I think, I don't know if you heard this, but Anthony Edwards in an interview recently said, look, the first time that the Lakers play the Mavericks, if I'm not playing a game, I'm getting front row tickets to that. And that is now what has happened. It is must watch television. And the NBA got its wish. They got one of the biggest stars in the biggest market. Now, they didn't do this on purpose. It happened. And because of Nico Harrison deciding to trade away a generational franchise player at age 25 to, of all teams, the Lakers, guess what the NBA is going to do now? They've already done it. They're putting that team in prime time every chance they get. And of course, the casual fan's going to want to watch. They were already watching the Lakers in the first place, but now it's going to double. I mean, I'm sure Mavericks fans are maybe rooting for Luka too. So you got that. You also have all the different pieces of the puzzle changing and superstars now with more superstars. And, it's become a league of you can't just have one superstar. You need to have multiple. And this is what this trade deadline did. It created now multiple teams now with multiple superstars. And I think that's great. I love it. More drama, the better. More action, the better. I want chaos. I've said that multiple times with sports. I love the chaosness of sports at times. And that's why I absolutely loved this trade deadline because of the amount of chaos it brought. It was every hour there was, wow, this is happening and this is happening. And it all started on Saturday night when the bombshell of Luka being traded to the Lakers happened.
I wonder if this puts any credence to, how Barkley's got that idea of they should start the season 2 months later. So then they will pretty much go up against nothing once the NFL's over instead of starting that 2 months and having to go up against the NFL and college basketball and the college football playoffs. I still think the league needs to
shorten the season.
But if they pushed it back, do you think it would kind of have the same effect as how the trade deadline for the NBA was all over the place this week because there was nothing going on in the Super Bowl? When the Super Bowl's over, it would be like that almost all the time, right? Because they would have nothing to go up against.
Right. But again, I don't think they're going to shorten the season or move the season because, you have sponsors and money and obligations to go and whatnot. I would be shocked if anything as far as like moving the season or shortening games well, they've been talking about that, which is another dumb idea, but taking away games and making a season shorter.
Yeah, I don't want to shorten it. I was just maybe push it back so they didn't have as much competition.
Right.
Because it maybe put more eyes on the game.
Well, anyway, thank you, NBA. That was great. I love that. And I'm sure Woj is sitting somewhere and thinking to himself, I'm glad I didn't have to deal with all that. Or maybe he wishes he was a part of it. I don't know. But Shams was sure working his ass off.
He's
this
probably
trade
jealous think of all those trade deadlines that he had to do where nothing happened, and now like he retires, or quote retires, and now all of a sudden it's like biggest and best trade deadline possibly in NBA history.
So we'll talk more about that with John Ireland coming up at 5 p.m. today. Luka's debut with the Lakers is going to be this Saturday afternoon against the Pacers. But right now, caller number 6, 877-767-4760. Caller number 6, you've won a pair of tickets to see Simple Minds at the North Credit Union or the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater on Saturday, May 24th. 877-767-4760. Caller number 6, you've won Simple Mind tickets. More Jon and Jim coming up next. Jon and Jim. Kyle Glaser is going to join us at 4 p.m. today. Talk everything Padres with him. So I saw this tweet, Brent, and it's very interesting. And it was highlighting owners in Major League Baseball, the amount of revenue that the teams bring in compared to the payrolls of the teams, and then looking at the percentage of money that they spend on their payroll compared to the revenue that they gain. It's called the MLB Scrooge Index. And when you look at this, it's kind of like, whoa. So the New York Mets, all right?
Heard of them.
Yeah. When you look at their revenue as a team and their payroll as a team, it is a complete outlier from the rest of the sport. According to this index, the New York Mets brought in $441 million worth of revenue last year. And as a payroll, they had a $450 million payroll. So their Scrooge index is 102%. They are essentially spending as much money on their payroll to the revenue that they're bringing in as a team. And probably asking, all right, where's the Padres at? The Padres, it says here, according to this index, had $427 million worth of revenue last year and a payroll of $229 million. Their Scrooge index is 54%. So 54% of the total amount of revenue that they generated is compared to the payroll that they had for the team last year. And you look at the rest of baseball, most teams, the Yankees, they get probably the most revenue in the sport. And their Scrooge index is 52%. So you see a lot of teams, like even the Dodgers, they make the second most revenue in the sport. And they have a 67%, difference when it comes to payroll and revenue. My point is, all of these teams, all right, 50%, 45%, 60%, 35%, 39%. Baseball owners are not going to change. They are not going to be like Steve Cohen, where Steve Cohen wanted to spend and spend, and he wants to spend and spend. Peter, I think you could put him in that category. He wanted to spend and spend, and he did. And when you look at this, I guess, group of owners, and you talk about a potential salary cap, that's just not going to happen. Owners in baseball are not going to spend a lot of money. And by a lot of money, you get my point. $250 million, it's a lot of money. But they're going to keep it at a cost where they are going to still have a good chance to make a lot of revenue money comparable to the payroll they have on the field. The margins here are going to stay around this unless you're the Mets. The Mets, like, screw it. Cohen's like, I'm just going to spend a bunch of money. This is not going to change. We see how much baseball makes per year as far as a total goes, and it's billions and billions of dollars. It is a lot. And then so you ask yourself, why aren't the Pirates doing anything? Why are the Cleveland Guardians, who were a couple wins away from a World Series, slashing their payroll? Why haven't the Seattle Mariners done anything? Why are the Padres doing absolutely nothing off a 93-win season? Well, it's because there's no system in place that says they have to. There's no floor. There's no top. There's only a Steve Cohen tax. And we have seen teams just like the Yankees and Dodgers, more so the Dodgers and the Mets, they just don't care. Like, you're going to put a tax in? Great. I'll just go past that. Who gives a crap? Like, the Dodgers this year are spending almost $30 million for 1 year of Kirby Yates. there is no set plan in place that allows that says the Dodgers can't do that. And no other team's willing to do that either. No, like not the Oakland A's, the Sacramento A's. No, Marlins have spent $800,000 this offseason. The Mets have spent over $1 billion. Until there is a system in place to incentivize these owners to spend money, they're not going to do it. They're not. The Cleveland Guardians, they're slashing their payroll. The Seattle Mariners have done nothing. Padres have done nothing. The Marlins have done nothing. Pirates have done nothing. The A's, the only reason why they're doing anything is because John Fisher, the worst owner in sports, and we'll get to some John Fisher news today, which, of course this happened with him, spending money to try to convince his new fan base that they're about winning. They're not. Most of these owners are not all about winning. A couple are. Now, a couple are because they have the revenue to back it up, and it's not as hard for them. But a lot of these owners, how much money are we making? What's our profit margins look like? Or we're in the red. All right, we'll cut payroll again. We're in the green. Cool. It's great. It just frustrates me that you have a sport with no salary cap and you have damn near 90% of the owners scared to spend money when they're making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. That's what, as a fan, upsets everybody. If there's a salary cap, okay, there's a absolute definitive reason why X team is not spending money. Well, there's a salary cap. They're up against it. They got to cut payroll down to get under the salary cap so they have enough money to go out and spend and try to improve the team. With no salary cap in baseball, what's stopping these owners other than greed? Exactly. Other than seeing how much revenue they can pocket every single year instead of focusing on the main thing, which is the on-the-field product. And that's what Peter Seidler understood. That's what what made him so special is that, yes, was the team losing money? Probably. But that all he cared about was winning. And at the end of the day, some fans sitting in section 308 could give two you-know-whats about the profit margins with the Padres organization. Give me a break.
For me, I think some of it depends on the situation. If I'm the Cubs owner and say we need a center fielder, but I don't like any of the center fielders that are in this year's free agency class, I should be able to say, no, I'm going to pass this year, and I like people that are supposed to be in next year's class better. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to save my money and spend it next year. I don't like the fact that they should go, well, even if you don't like any of the players that are available in free agency, we're going to require you to spend money that you don't want to spend that could potentially hamper you in future seasons.
Yeah, I don't really much care.
Because that's my whole thing. Is
I get it.
If the Padres need a left fielder. If there's not a left fielder that AJ Preller likes, he shouldn't be required to go out there and spend $30 million on a left fielder that he doesn't want if there's one that could be available next season that they actually do want to spend money on. That's my whole thing with the forcing them to spend money just to spend money thing.
Jurickson Profar was out there and they didn't want to spend money on that. So, and he was a perfect fit and was exactly what the Padres needed to do, was bring back a guy like Jurickson Profar. There's absolutely guys out there that I know this team would have liked to have here. And the price tag for them wasn't high. But in the end, owners are going to owner, and they're not going to spend money if it means when they look at their profit margins. Pretty simple. All right, coming up next, Kyle Glaser is going to join us in the 4 p.m. hour. John Ireland, voice of the Lakers, is going to join us at 5. But some breaking news with Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter. You'll hear that coming up next.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. In breaking sort of baseball news, Shohei Ohtani's interpreter has been sentenced to 57 months in prison. He was sentenced today to nearly 5 years in prison for stealing about $17 million from Shohei Ohtani to repay gambling debts. The NBA trade deadline ended today. We had a few more trades to close out the deadline. The Lakers made another move, acquiring center Mark Williams from the Hornets for Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, and a 2031 unprotected first-round pick and a 2030 pick swap. Williams averaged 16 points on just under 60% shooting and 10 rebounds a game for the Hornets this season. Kevin Durant was not traded. He will stay with Phoenix, and according to ESPN, the Nets are working on a buyout for forward Ben Simmons. In NFL news, Chicago Bears owner Virginia McCaskey died today at the age of 102. Kitchen sink more clogged than Monday morning traffic? Kitchen clog catastrophe? Avoid a flood that your home insurance won't cover. $63 stoppage guarantee. Anderson Plumbing, Rooter Drain Services. They always know what's below. Nobody wows clients like they do.
All right, hour two on Jon and Jim. Kyle Glaser going to join us at the top of next hour. John Ireland at 5 p.m. Going back to John Seidler, who is now the official control person. It was approved today by the Padres. It still has to take another 30 days or so for the official transfer of power to happen. Officially, the transfer of power, it won't occur until John Seidler's made the trustee of Peter Seidler's trust, and that paperwork could take about 30 days. The Padres' first spring training game is February 21st. So who knows when we'll hear from John. I hope it's sooner rather than later. I hope that when he does speak, it's not the same, we're going to uphold the legacy of Peter and we want to win our first World Series. Like, I want definitive, we're going to spend or we're not going to spend. However that's said, I want it to be definitive, because what this fan base has been for the last year is in the dark on, are they going to really uphold and live to Peter Seidler's legacy, or are they going to be the team that is cost cutting and cost effective and doesn't want to spend money? And what's it going to be? In Kevin's article, towards the very end, he says something that I'm not sure what he means. But if this were to be true, then I'm expecting John Seidler to okay the Padres, when AJ Preller comes to him with ideas about spending and trading, like, I'm expecting them to operate close to how they were operating, not to maybe that level of when Peter was here. Kevin writes, Eric Katsenda, a longtime friend and business partner of Peter Seidler and minority owner of the Padres, will continue as the team's control person until John Seidler takes over, which it's kind of already happened, but obviously the paperwork and to have him be the trustee takes about 30 days. Katsenda will eventually move into an advisory role with the team. But listen to this. But the club's messaging is that the new boss is expected to be the same as the old boss.
Wasn't that the Who?
What are you talking about?
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Oh, okay.
I forgot you don't know music.
Yes, I don't, Brent. I'm like John when it comes to music. I'm like John when it comes to when John as asked about movies is me when you're asking about music. So who's he talking about there? Kevin, who are you talking about? Are you talking about Eric Tsenda? Or are you talking about Peter? Because those are pretty strong words. The club's messaging is that the new boss is expected to be the same as the old boss. Well, then get to spending. Let's go. If that is truly the messaging that they want to convey and that they don't want to just continue to, put out there, we're here to uphold the legacy of Peter. Okay, that's great. Yes, we know that, but you got to do something first. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions right now are not living up to your words that you are telling us. So if the club's messaging is that the new boss is expected to be as same as the old boss, then okay, great. Get to work. Start some spending. Let's go. The last thing anybody wants to see is that message be put out there, and then right away they trade Dylan Cease. If that were to happen, then I don't buy it at all. I just don't. I'm just if you're going to say a message to the fans of we're going to uphold Peter's legacy and the messaging is going to be the same, and it's we expected to run this team not to Peter's level but close to that, then guess what? You gotta do what's necessary to make the fans feel like you are doing that. And at this moment in time, they're not. I get it. There's a lot of transitioning that take place and a lot of paperwork that goes into this. And I don't even know if John's even allowed to speak yet. There's a lawsuit out there. Like there's a lot going on. And we've talked about, hey, this thing eventually could end up going down the road to a potential sale. Now, everything that I've seen today, I don't take away from anything that I've read from other owners in baseball and Rob Manfred that they expect the Padres to sell. An interesting quote from the meeting that took place today that unanimously voted in John as the new control person of the team. Diamondbacks owner Ken Kendrick said after the vote, quote, "It was automatic, really. John's a good man. And of course, we all loved Peter. I think this is what Peter wanted." And that's really what this goes back to is what does Peter want? What did Peter want? Did Peter truly want this? Kind of feels close to it. I don't know. I mean, Shield claims that she has a pretty strong case and you got to hear that out. And so I tend to look at what Shield says and my eyebrows raise and my antenna goes up of like, what's going on here? If Shield is claiming the things that she's claiming, and what if they turn out to be true, then we got some major problems. It just is weird to me how if you're going to say that is your message, the same as the old boss, well, then do something that the old boss would have liked to do or would have done already. You can't go back in time and you can't re-sign Jurickson Profar. I think that was a huge miss this offseason. I really do. I mean, just listening to Manny Machado during FanFest, you can just tell in his voice that he was not happy about it. And if you're not going to re-sign your players, your core players, and then turn that around and then end up trading Dylan Cease because you need to get under a certain number, then it's like everything that you're telling me, it doesn't mean anything. And winning now is so important. I'll continue to say it. It is so important. I mean, are you, when you go to Petco Park, are you going to see slogans of like, wait till 3 years from now? No, you saw that back in the day when the team sucked. But when your team is good, you're talking about this season. And if this season you're not doing everything you can to win a World Series, then you are not upholding that legacy that you have touted out there every single chance you have gotten. But hey, at least we know what he looks like. At least we know what he looks like.
Yeah, now we have a face to put future outrage and
yes,
possible praise to.
Right. Then
so
when
we
we're
can either
upset,
go, John,
we
you
know.
suck, or we go, John, good job.
Yeah,
because it's going to be one of those two.
It definitely will be. So it seemed like the process today was, as Kevin reports here, very non-controversial and pretty automatic. The lawsuit, according to Kevin here, didn't play really much any factor into this vote. I didn't know if I didn't expect it to. I'd have been more surprised if it did. Like if it wasn't a unanimous vote and you saw some owners voting against this, then that would have been this is a big problem. Because if you have other owners in the sport that are looking at what's going on with the Padres here and the lawsuit situation and the infighting between the Seidler bros and Shield, and then owners around baseball view that as like we gotta no, this is not good, and they did not vote in John Seidler, that would have been even worse. So I know there are some fans out there that are still very upset. I mean, as you should be. The team's done nothing. And you were hoping that today John would have not been voted in, but in the end, like, it feels like this was always going to happen. I'd have been way more surprised if there was any controversy with this vote. Unlike today, which according to Kevin, there was absolutely none. It was business as usual. Probably, I guess, one of the easiest yes votes you could probably have. And now we kind of just wait to see what the team will do. So, side note here, as I'm seeing it come into our studios right now, actually out in the newsroom, this is amazing. All right. So Dave's Hot Chicken, I'm sure you've all heard of it. Delicious. We love some Dave's Hot Chicken. They are doing a special giveaway for the big game. All right. Listen to this. With the big game coming up on Sunday, Dave's Hot Chicken is giving out hot boxes for a year, or a big game hot box party and $15 gift cards for a winner. All right. Right now, I've seen the amount of entries. It's crazy. Over 77,000 entries so far. The contest is currently live. It ends tonight at midnight. So if you want to get some free some free Dave's Hot Chicken for an entire year, listen to this. Go to iHeartRadio.com/Dave's Hot Chicken. iHeartRadio.com/Dave's Hot Chicken to find out how you can sign up to win a chance at free Dave's Hot Chicken hot boxes for an entire year. You are going to want to sign up. You have until midnight tonight. I'm going out in the newsroom and I'm going to stuff my face with Dave's Hot Chicken during the break. And while I do that, you are going to sign up right now to possibly win some Dave's Hot Chicken hot boxes for an entire year. Do it. Trust me. Dave's Hot Chicken is amazing. All right. Coming up next, we'll get to Kyle Glaser, who's going to join us at 4 p.m. and John Ireland at 5. Stay with us right here on Jon and Jim. follow up what I was just talking about. Dave's Hot Chicken just showed up at the studio, and oh my God. Do you like Dave's Hot Chicken, Brent? It is.
I've never had it before.
You've never had it before?
It's my first time. There's one by my house, but I just never gone there.
Oh my God, it looks delicious. I don't want to eat that right now because I don't have John with me to talk, so I'll eat that during the break. But again, if you want Dave's Hot Chicken boxes for an entire year, the big game's coming up this Sunday, and Dave's Hot Chicken is hooking you up. Just go to our contest page right now, iHeartRadio.com/Dave's Hot Chicken. You have until midnight tonight to sign up for your chance to win Dave's Hot Chicken hot boxes for an entire year. Just sign up, iHeartRadio.com/Dave's Hot Chicken. Again, you have until midnight tonight to potentially win.
Yeah, I could eat this for a year.
Yeah, for a year, a week.
Yeah, I could eat this for a year.
I mean, it is like mouth-watering good. I had a little during the break. I will have a lot more during the next break, and it is mouth-watering good, as Brent said. Okay, so John, who is on vacation skiing in Wyoming every single day I've seen this guy skiing. I'm like, how much can one person ski? Like, ski more. Oh wait, you can't. Well, while he has been skiing, he has also been tweeting when I'm like, you're on vacation? I mean, you give me crap if I was tweeting when I was on vacation. But John is tweeting about stuff that I'm like, huh? Of course, it's like Ken Palm and, some Aztec related stuff. But one thing he did tweet out that he would be very proud that we're talking about this right now, because he would absolutely want to talk about this on the show, is next season's Players Era Tournament. And I agree with John. He says it's the best non-conference tournament field ever put together. Because today, Tennessee announced that they're joining Kansas and Auburn as the latest entries to the 2025 field. The trio joins the 8 teams that played in the inaugural tournament last year: Alabama, Creighton, Houston, Notre Dame, Oregon, Rutgers, San Diego State, and Texas A&M. And 7 other previously committed teams: Baylor, Gonzaga, Iowa State, Michigan, Michigan State, Michigan, St. John's, and Syracuse. Yeah, John's right. That is a stacked field.
Nobody's gonna go to Maui anymore.
No, never. No. Oh God, no. Maui? No. This is the new tournament, especially because of the money that's coming in through the NIL.
Well, yeah, the only way they're going to be able to compete is pretty much all the other tournaments are going to have to start paying them.
And you know how I know that this is going to work is because of all the teams that have agreed to join this tournament. If the teams that, the big boys, right? Just pull this up here. If Gonzaga or Kansas, Auburn, Tennessee, right? If they were like, nah, no, we're good. Then you'd be like, well, how much of a shelf life does this NIL tournament really have? Right now, it feels like it could last for a while if you're getting these big boys in this tournament. Tennessee, Kansas, Auburn, Alabama, Creighton, Houston, Notre Dame, Oregon, Rutgers, San Diego State, Texas A&M, Baylor, Gonzaga, Iowa State, Michigan, St. Joe's, St. John's, Syracuse. Dude, that's incredible. That is like a dream tournament if you're San Diego State to be in. Because not only do you have opportunities to play some of the best teams in the country, but really help your resume. And of course, it would be the most ironic thing ever. They're going to end up playing like Creighton in their first game, and then they'll play, Gonzaga, 2 teams that they play like all the time, at least Gonzaga in the future, because they're going to be in the Pac-12, and Creighton seems like they play every single other year. Like, how cool would it be if you saw a San Diego State Auburn matchup, or a San Diego State Michigan matchup, or a San Diego State, Syracuse matchup? Like, we've seen those matchups before: Michigan, Syracuse in the tournament, Creighton, obviously. multiple times. We've seen them take on Kansas back in the day, the team that beat that Joel Embiid team on the road. I just think, you have a field where it's only going to help you as a program, and there is no downside to it, like zero downside to this tournament at all. They can go in this tournament, say they play 3 games. I don't know exactly how many games they'll play. John probably will know everything, but
with all the teams they've added, they almost have to play more than 3 this year.
Yeah, so
because they played. Yeah, they did 2 or 3. Yeah, they did 3 this year.
All right,
and
so
they only had like 8.
So they play 4. I don't know, 4
or 5 at least.
4 or 5. So they play 4. Let's go. Even number there. You go 1-3 in the tournament. I still think you'd be okay with that, because if you took on a team that was, say, I'm just put Kansas as an example. Say Kansas, and they come into the tournament and they're ranked number 2 in the country, and you lose to Kansas on a neutral floor. It's like it doesn't really hurt at all.
You can only help yourself.
You can only help yourself.
If you lose to Kansas on a neutral floor, you're not going to drop down, and you're going to get the money. That's like one of the biggest things. Because I always, said when they came up with this whole tournament and concept was just, it's the Aztecs are one of those teams that they need that NIL money. Kansas and Duke, they're going to get invites, but come on, they don't need it. They pretty much just go and get whoever they want, and they're going to have, all the NIL money that they'll ever need. So it almost creates like a David versus Goliath, or the haves versus the have-nots now with the tournament. If the Aztecs are some school that, really needs this money, opposed to like a school like Duke or Kansas that they don't need it. They'll take it, of course, but they don't need it.
No, they don't need it. San Diego State needs it, and it's only going to help them going forward. And I mean, if you're a San Diego State fan, you have to love the fact that they're in this tournament. Even if they win winless, they're still getting $1 million towards their NIL initiative, towards the Mesa Foundation. That's a win in itself. Getting $1 million this past year added to the money that they got because they won games in the tournament, and then another $1 million next year, to the Mesa Foundation. It's great. It's great. All right, coming up next, Rob Manfred says that some fans are concerned. Some fans are concerned over the lack of a salary cap. What? We'll talk about that coming up next.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. In baseball news, Shohei Ohtani's interpreter has been sentenced to 57 months in prison. Today, he was sentenced to nearly 5 years in prison for stealing about $17 million from Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani to repay his gambling debts. In NBA trade deadline news, there was a few more trades made today. Kevin Durant was not involved in any of them. He will be staying with Phoenix. The Lakers did make one more trade. They picked up center Mark Williams from Charlotte, and they sent Charlotte Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, a 2031 unprotected first-round pick, and a 2030 pick swap. Williams averaged 16 points on just under 60% shooting and 10 rebounds for the Hornets this season. You can hear the Lakers tonight on San Diego Sports 760 against Golden State. Our coverage starts at 7 o'clock. In NFL news, Chicago Bears owner Virginia McCaskey passed away at the age of 102. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $250 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends April 5th. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
All right, make sure to catch Lakers basketball tonight when they take on the Jimmy Butler Warriors.
He won't be playing, by the way.
I know he won't be playing. It's going to be a weird game because you're going to have, I don't think Steph will play. Warriors had one of the most epic losses last night. They're up by 11 with 2 minutes to play. They lost by 3. Anyway, catch Lakers basketball tonight when they take on the Warriors. Tips at 7 p.m. right here on your home for the Lakers in San Diego. San Diego Sports 760.
Here's the thing. He might have to play, though, because they're shorthanded. Because Butler and them aren't playing, so he might have to.
I mean, it would behoove him to play because they
it's
need
like your new favorite word, isn't it?
Behoove?
Yeah. You've been using that a lot lately.
Oh,
nothing wrong with it. I just,
it
like
behoove me to not use behoove as much as I have. So, Rob Manfred today. Headline is Rob Manfred says some MLB fans are concerned over lack of salary cap. Oh, yeah. Some. Quote, this is an issue that we need to be vigilant on. Manfred said Thursday following the end of the owners' meetings. We need to pay attention to it and need to determine whether there are things that can be done to allay those kinds of concerns and make sure we have a competitive and healthy game going forward. He says that the Dodgers are a really well-run, successful organization. Everything that they do and have done is consistent with our rules. They're trying to give their fans the best possible product. Those are all positives. I recognize, however, and my emails certainly reflect that there are fans in other markets who are concerned about their team's ability to compete. And we always have to be concerned when our fans are concerned about something. But pinning it on the Dodgers, I'm not in that camp. I've never pinned this on the Dodgers. I agree with them there. It's not the Dodgers' fault. They're working in a system and maximizing their ability in that system. And they also have resources that other teams don't have, but that's not their fault. So because the Marlins and the Pirates and now the Padres are teams without a bunch of revenue, like the big TV deal that the Dodgers have, then the Dodgers aren't supposed to spend money? Like, of course they are. The problem I have with what the Dodgers have done is all of these deferrals. That's where my big gripe comes in.
Yeah.
To have over $1.2 billion in deferrals, you're like, what? What? But again, they have played within the rules and they've stretched it and they have found the loophole. They found the part of the equation that helps them out. And that's deferrals. But the spending the money part, look, it sucks. I don't like it. Sure, Padres fans don't like seeing the Dodgers go out and spend money on every single player, but at the same time, fans should be mad not at the Dodgers for spending money, but for their own owners for not spending money. The deferral stuff Yeah, I will go forever and say that the Shohei Ohtani deferral thing should never have happened because it's ridiculous. It's like taking the system and completely turning it on his head when no other team can do that. Other teams can spend money, but the deferral thing, and to say that Shohei Ohtani came up with the deferrals on his own, give me a break.
I just think they should just put a cap on the deferrals.
Agreed.
That's my biggest thing. But I don't really buy Manfred. I think it's one of those things, like how Scott Boras, when he wants to drum up more agent or interest in his client, he'll go, "Oh yeah, so and so he's going to leak out to the press that so and so really wants to go to the Padres, even though he has no interest in going to the Padres. He just does that to jack the market up." I kind of feel like it's some of the owners that want the salary cap, but they don't want to come out and say that they want it. So they're going to go, "Oh yeah, we've got some emails from fans that say that they really want a salary cap." So then it looks like it's the fans that want it and not necessarily that they're the one throwing the idea out into the ether.
Well, interesting you said that, Brent, because new Orioles owner David Rubenstein told Yahoo Finance last month, "I wish it would be the case that we would have a salary cap in baseball the way other sports do, and maybe eventually we will." No, you won't. But we don't have that now. I suspect we'll probably have something closer to what the NFL and NBA have, but there's no guarantee of that. No, you won't. You bring up a salary cap in the next CBA negotiations,
they'll walk out right away.
You will be locking them out. End of discussion. The players are not going to give in on this. With the amount of money that is being thrown around in free agency, there is 0% chance that players would agree to a cap. Juan Soto's getting $750 million. Shohei's getting over $700 million, even though all of it's deferred. I mean, these contracts are only going to get larger and larger. And especially with Scott Boras being like the front of the line is when it comes to baseball agents, there is no way you are going to have a salary cap. A floor, maybe. I think the better thing would be, how do you fix the revenue between the TV contracts? Because that seems like it's a real easy excuse for teams that don't have the money the Dodgers have through their TV revenue and the Yankees have to not spend. So why don't you worry about that? Because you're not getting a salary cap. You're just not. You're not getting anything close to what the NFL and the NBA gets. I'd be shocked if that happened.
Honestly, I won't want them to have anything like the NBA has. The NBA stuff is way too confusing with, the bird years and like there's so much like additional crap with the NBA stuff that I wouldn't want them to adopt that. That's too confusing.
And look what happened in 94, the strike of 94, when the discussion of salary cap was brought up. And guess what happened? A 7.5 month lockout that almost ruined your sport, probably did for a long time until steroids brought it back.
Steroids saved the day.
And then Bud Selig, said steroids are a problem, even though steroids were a huge part of the reason why baseball was watched in the late 90s and early 2000s. Yet that was the biggest problem. So the biggest problem of your sport was we're having too much success with all the steroids. Anyway, it's a totally different conversation. But yeah, I think when you look at baseball right now, the main talking point is salary cap or floor, and it just ain't going to happen. You bring that to the table, it will immediately get rejected. There's no way the players are going to agree to anything of that stance. I like your idea, Brent. There needs to be a cap or at least a limit on how the deferrals go. There needs to be equal revenue sharing. There needs to be ways for teams to get a bunch of money and then be able to spend in free agency. Because right now, half your league is MIA during the offseason. Hell, more than that. Like 70% of your league is not going to spend money in the offseason. And that's the problem. All right, coming up next. Why is Matthew Stafford's wife what is she talking about? Interesting comments from Matt Stafford's wife. Coming up next, also, Kyle Glaser joins us at 4. Stay with us right here on Jon and Jim. Back here on Jon and Jim, Kyle Glaser joins us at the top of the hour. Just got this tweet, Brent. I turned on. Wait, hold on. Let me rephrase that. I turned on your show at 3:00 and all I hear is, oh my God, there is still a lawsuit going on for the Padres. Rumors continue. They may leave. If things are not going to change with Jon in charge, then they better do something now. And you think that makes people want to listen? So let me get this straight. You just described most of the entirety of that segment. And you're asking people, wait, so that means you listened. Okay, thanks. I said this. The Padres ownership issues, unfortunately, are the number one talking point with this franchise until it's resolved. End of discussion. I'm sorry. And with the lack of moves they've made in this offseason, this is at the forefront. Sorry. I mean, what do you want us to break down like Matt Waldron's spin rate again?
Yeah. I'd rather talk about all those free agents the Padres but yeah, it's not like it's what we want to talk about.
I don't want to be talking about this. I know you guys don't want to be hearing about this. This is not, it reminds me a little bit of when the Chargers stadium issue drama was going on. And every day it was just like, I don't want to be talking about this, but it's the main topic. It's the most important thing that's going on right now. And if the Padres aren't going to make any moves, this is it. And to be truthful, even if they were making moves, anybody out there that says, oh, we would just forget about it, stop. All right? Stop. Now, if they made like some crazy moves, then yeah, probably goes back to the, background a little bit. But then as soon as the lawsuit news comes out or anything else, story number one. I'm sorry. And what's the news of the day? Am I just trying to fabricate stuff? Like, no, there's actual quotes from people on Jon Seidler. There's a vote that happened today where he was approved. Like, this is the number one topic here for the Padres right now in this offseason, even though they're not doing anything. Sorry. So Matthew Stafford's wife has a podcast. And I saw this pop up on my timeline today. And I have a take on spouses talking about their wives or husbands, sports teams or whatnot. But listen to what Matthew Stafford's wife said on her podcast, because recently Cooper Kupp said that he was going to get traded. And Matthew Stafford's another year older. I know he contemplated retirement last year. They were a couple plays away from maybe making an NFC title game this season. Here's what she had to say.
Wasn't planning on discussing this, but hell, why not? My husband wants to win. He's not trying to put a team in a bad situation. If you're catching my drift, you're catching my drift. I will say that the trading away of Cooper, I guess I'm just I'm confused because we were one play away from going to the NFC Championship. And I think if we go, we win. I have to be the dog in this situation, being like, I want the respect for him that he deserves. Yes, I love the city of LA. I love the city of LA. With that being said, I love an adventure.
Why is the music so
I don't know. I didn't put it in there.
So dramatic. Okay. If
you guys need to get some of that for the wrap-up show.
Yeah, I know. If I was Matthew Stafford and I saw Aaron talking about we's and we need to do this and we need to do that as an organization, I'd be like, honey, stop. And this is the same woman too that came out and was saying how she cheated on Matt Stafford to get his attention at Georgia, the backup quarterback. And then everybody went to investigation mode and found who the backup quarterback at Georgia was and was like, what? I don't know. It just makes me cringe when I hear that, using we's and you're not a part of the team. I know that you're the wife of the star quarterback, but when you start saying things like what the team needs to do, I don't know. If I were Matt Stafford, I'd be like, hey, probably not the best thing to talk about it.
It doesn't bother me because I do that. You know, I'm not a part of the Bears, but when they do stuff, I'd be like,
But
hey,
you don't have
we picked up a defensive end today, but I'm not a part of the Bears. I shouldn't be able to go we.
That's completely different. If your brother was on the team and you started talking about the Bears need to do this, then you become a distraction.
Yeah, but I'd still say we. There's be no difference to, you know, fans do that all the time.
I think that her coming out is just a little cringy. That's just me. I think it's a little cringy. I know the trade rumors are happening now with not Matthew Stafford, but Cooper Kupp. But like, you know, when the year that Tom Brady and who was it? It wasn't Julian Edelman. It was who was that receiver that dropped those passes? Oh, I'm blanking on the name. It wasn't Danny Amendola. Wes Welker. When Wes Welker dropped the pass in the Super Bowl and Giselle started ripping Wes Welker after the game, I don't know. I would, if I was the husband, I'd be like, oh my, please stop talking. Please. You're just going to make this even worse than it already is. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things where if it wasn't such a boring, slow week for Super Bowl week, this one even got picked up. You know, who pays attention to?
I pay attention.
What's her name? Kelly. Who
Yeah.
pays attention to Kelly's podcast?
I don't know, but man,
Yeah, I'm sure she's like, hey, Matt, can I do a podcast? Sure, honey.
dramatic as hell. We have a little breaking news.
Is it legit breaking news?
It's a little breaking news. Mark Stein is reporting that Luka Doncic is targeting now Monday for his Laker debut against the Utah Jazz. Says here, he returned to 5-on-5 play in practice this week and is said to be progressing well in his ramp up from his left calf strain on Christmas. What the hell, man?
That's probably what ESPN's saying too. They're like, oh, we moved the game up for Saturday.
We moved the game and put it on our network. Like, what the hell, man? But still, we'll talk to John Ireland, voice of the Lakers, at 5 p.m. about Luka's eventual debut and if he is fully recovered from the shock that he is now a Los Angeles Laker. But coming up next, Kyle Glaser is going to join us to talk all Padres. Coming up next right here on Jon and Jim. Later this hour, we have tickets to give away for San Diego State basketball against Boise State next Saturday night when we play Trainwreck Radio. John Ireland, voice of the Lakers, will join us at 5 p.m. But right now, it's great again, as always, to be joined by Kyle Glaser, MLB.com, and a brand new show on YouTube called Friar Territory. Kyle's joining us here on Jon and Jim. I wanted to start with your new show on YouTube, Kyle. How did that come about? And just tell us about what it is about. Obviously, it's about the Padres, but for people out there that want to check that out, what do you got, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously Foul Territory, the National Baseball show, started up about a year ago, and they had me on very frequently as a guest, and they've started branching out into doing team-specific shows, and they were kind enough to ask me if I wanted to launch and host a Padres show. So we jumped on the air at the end of last month. Mike Cameron and Heath Bell, two Padres favorites, are co-hosting with me. So every Monday and Thursday, we've got shows with Mike and Heath just talking about their stories with the Padres, what's going on with the current team, trends in Major League Baseball as a whole. It's been a lot of fun, and I encourage everyone to check it out on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, every Monday and Thursday.
Love it. Absolutely love it. All right, let's get into the Padres offseason. All right, thanks for joining us, Kyle. Really appreciate it. I mean, there's not a lot going on with this team. Elias Diaz is now a part of this team. I don't know how much this really helps them. They lost Jurickson Profar. You know, how concerned are you about the holes on this team going into spring training, pitchers and catchers reporting next week?
Yeah, look, you definitely have to acknowledge that they're there. The bottom third of the lineup isn't as strong as you'd like it to be. The back rotation isn't as strong as you'd like it to be. And the bench is particularly weak. And on top of that, there's really not much position player depth in the upper level of the minors. And this is where AJ Preller and his lieutenants are going to have to really, really dig deep, use their scouting acumen, and find some bargains. You know, we saw last year they were able to get guys like Donovan Solano on a minor league deal. David Peralta, they picked up mid-season off waivers. They're going to have to really, really do a good job of finding guys who, for whatever reason, aren't available, but, you know, maybe still have something to offer. This is where, you know, again, AJ Preller has always been known as a scout at heart. He's an executive in title, but a scout at heart. He's done a good job, as have his lieutenants the last 2 years, finding some under-the-radar guys and helping them get better and improve. Now they have to do it again.
Kyle Glaser joining us here on Jon and Jim, host of the new Friar Territory podcast on YouTube. Check it out if you're a Padres fan. The whole conversation around Dylan Cease and Michael King, I'm on the side, and I get the money aspect of it, Kyle. I really do. But I'm on the side of you have a real chance here with two frontline starters to really try to go for it this offseason. Where are you at with Dylan Cease and Michael King and the trade rumors around them? And what would you do if you were AJ Preller?
These are two of the best starting pitchers in baseball. And as long as you have them, you have a chance to compete. The only way you trade them is if the offer is so overwhelming you can't say no. We're talking multiple starters and you know, young big league position players who can step in right away. Again, AJ Preller, his MO has always been they're always going to talk players. They're always going to, you know, go through some very aggressive trade proposals and just have conversations. So the fact that there's conversations around players like Cease, like King, like Robert Suarez, like Luis Arias, all of whom have a chance to be free agents after next season, isn't a surprise. But I think with Cease and King in particular, again, it would have to be just an overwhelming kind of deal to move either of them.
Kyle, what do you make of the organizational depth with this team? Salas and DeVries are top 100 prospects, but other than that, it doesn't seem like there's that much there to work with.
No, there isn't. And look, that's a function of the Padres have aggressively traded prospects for big name veterans over the last 5 years. And at a certain point, you thin it out enough, there's just not going to be much left. Now, look, a lot of those trades have worked out. You look at Yu Darvish, you look at Joe Musgrove, you look at the Blake Snell trade. There's some others that haven't. Again, the Mike Clevenger trade, the Austin Nola trade. You know, they have some good young players in their farm system, but they're all teenagers who, for all intents and purposes, have yet to play above A ball. Ethan Salas has a little bit of time at Double A, but not a significant amount. there's really nothing in the AA or AAA levels to get excited about. And that's something that, isn't the case. The Dodgers have guys they can pull up from. The Diamondbacks have guys they can pull up from. The Braves and Phillies have guys they can pull up from. The Padres don't really have guys that can pull up from to plug holes right now. So again, you're really, really hoping that, some of these guys that came in on a minor league deal, that is just another great scouting job by AJ Preller and his lieutenants. But you can also say hope is not a strategy. So, there's really not a lot.
Kyle Glaser joined us here on Jon and Jim. I mentioned Elias Diaz, their only major league signing of the offseason so far. They signed Martin Maldonado to a minor league contract. Obviously, this team has Luis Campusano as well. Higgy, to me, was a big surprise last year, giving them 18 home runs. How do you think they're going to replace that production that Higgy got last year? And do you think they can? And what's your take on Luis Campusano seemingly, once again, not going to be given the keys to the castle here come opening day?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to replace Kyle Higashioka's very surprising offensive contributions. And he's a really good defender, too. Look, Luis Campusano, the scouting report, the deal with him has always been the same. He's a very strong right-handed hitter with real power, and when his swing is right, he can do damage. He's got way too many moving parts going right now. He needs to simplify it, and there's a chance still that he will hit. Defensively, he's always been kind of on the border of whether you really want him behind the plate catching every day or not. And he's always had issues with maturity, leadership, building relationships with his pitchers, which you have to have. So there's been multiple times now the Padres have had the opportunity to turn over the keys to him, have chosen not to. And when they did last year, he lost the job pretty quickly to Kyle Higashioka. So they certainly wanted to shore the backstop position up. And given how acute their needs are in left field and the back of the rotation, the fact they chose to spend their limited financial resources on a catcher says a lot about what they think Luis Campusano is capable of giving them.
Kyle Glaser joining us here on Jon and Jim, host of the new Friar Territory podcast on YouTube. Jurickson Profar signing with the Braves, a team that's directly in competition now with the Padres for one of the playoff spots next year. The deal that he got, do you think it was a fair deal? Too much? Too little? Like, what did you make of the deal that Profar, eventually landed on?
I think he actually signed for less than I expected. When you look at other corner outfielders in his age bracket, that 30 to 33 range, Teoscar Hernandez got an average of $22 million a year. Anthony Santander got a little over $18 million a year. Tyler O'Neill got a little over $16 million a year. Profar getting $14 million a year over 3 years is actually below market. So I actually thought that he was more likely to probably get, again, whether it was 3 for 48 or, 4 for 54, something like that. The fact he got 3 for 42, $14 million a year, it's actually a below market deal. And it's one that, I don't see any reason why the Braves would have hesitated to sign him for that if he was open to it.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, you heard Manny Machado and, Fernando Tatis Jr. at FanFest. You could tell in their voice that, losing Profar was a big blow to this team because he was in every single, feels like, big moment last year with this club when they went on to win 93 games and eventually, end up losing to the Dodgers in the division round. Kyle Glaser joining us here for a couple more minutes on Jon and Jim. Jackson Merrill put up an incredible rookie season, but the likelihood of him reproducing that exact type of year and even getting better, what are the chances you think that could happen? We saw Corbin Carroll last year not fall off a map, but he did not have anywhere close to good of a season as he did his rookie year. Is there any concern there with you that Jackson might not be able to put that type of season together for the Padres next year?
I mean, look, the sophomore slump is a real thing that afflicts many, many great players. So, I think you always have to be aware of it. But given Jackson Merrill's ability to adjust and just how incredible his season was, not just what it is statistically, but for him to have never played a single professional game in center field, come up, take to the position, which is one of the most difficult to play in Major League Baseball, remarkably quickly, all while hitting Major League pitching, making the jump from AA straight up to the majors. He didn't hit below 260 after April 6th last year. It was consistent. It was steady. Him and Jurickson Profar kept a team afloat offensively the entire first half. What he showed he was able to do, the adjustments he was able to make, how quickly he made them, and his maturity and his poise, I'm going to take the over on this kid every time just based on what he did last year. So look, yeah, sophomore slumps, they happen. You have to be wary of them. But I think if you're going to bet on someone, you're going to bet on someone like Jackson Merrill with everything he's shown both physically and just mentally, everything he can do on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I think putting your faith in Jackson Merrill is wise because of what he's shown you, his mentality, everything. Your bet on the kid, absolutely. Xander moving back to short this year. I know the team made a whole big thing about him moving to second last year, and it was better for the team, but now moving back to short. Do you think that's like a good move, or how do you view him now going back to short after they just moved him to second last year?
It's a move they had to make. They don't really have any other good options. Realistically, he, at this point, in his career, Xander Bogaerts was not moving great laterally at second base a lot of last year. Now he filled in at shortstop down the stretch and, did okay. It wasn't terrible. It was a small sample, but look, he's been kind of declining defensively now for a little bit. That was behind the move. He's back at short because their only other real option would be to put Jackson Merrill there, but then they don't have a center fielder. This is kind of hoping and praying that having Manny Machado, beside him at third and Jake Cronenworth at second, two Gold Glove caliber defenders, can maybe cover up some of Bogaerts' holes lateral range-wise. But you're kind of hoping he can just be steady and make the routine plays. But the fantastic plays that we saw Ha-Seong Kim make the last couple of years, that's not going to be happening anymore at Echo Park. Xander Bogaerts just can't quite do that like he could in his youth anymore.
Yeah, well, hopefully they get some type of youth injection from Xander this year, because they're absolutely going to need him to perform. Final one, Kyle. Talking about this team's money issues, and right as of this moment, they are over the CBT luxury tax threshold with the signing of Elias Diaz, and seemingly them having to probably make some type of cost-cutting move here in the near future. What are your thoughts on potentially trying to move Robert Suarez to free up some money and some space for this team?
Yeah, look, when you look at the guys we're talking about who could potentially be moved, whether it's Cesar King or Luis Arias, it's where could the hole be patched most? And really the answer is in the bullpen. Obviously, Robert Suarez is one of the best closers in baseball, someone you don't want to move. But if they do trade him, you still have Jeremiah Estrada, you still have Adrian Morejon, you still have Jason Adam, you still have a really good back of the bullpen. Whereas if you trade Dylan Cease or Michael King, you really don't have a very good rotation anymore. If you trade Luis Arias, your already shallow lineup just gets even shallower. So if they have to move someone, again, you don't ever want to trade away one of the best closers in baseball, but that would be the place they could trade from, and it probably wouldn't hurt them as much as some of the other places they would trade from.
Yeah, no doubt. Kyle Glaser, host of the new Friar Territory podcast on YouTube. Kyle, thanks for joining us, man. We'll talk soon. Have a great rest of your day, buddy.
Thanks. I always happy to join you.
All right, Kyle Glaser there of MLB.com and the new Friar Territory podcast. All right, coming up next, I found it. The one interesting storyline with the Super Bowl this upcoming Sunday. I found it. I'll tell you what that is coming up next.
All right. So what could you do with an extra $75,000 like right now, or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, you can get that money in less than a week with Loan Pronto. Hey guys, it is Schaefer. Loan Pronto is the leader in quickly converting your home equity into cold hard cash, so you can pay off all your credit cards or start that home remodel. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access the cash from your home. There's virtually no paperwork or cumbersome process, no junk fees, often no appraisal. Listen, the average homeowner now has over $300,000 in equity. $300,000. That's your money. You can use it. One client got $150,000 out, paid off all their credit cards. a couple of car loans, personal loan, cutting their monthly expenses by $1,500. You can get approved in as little as 1 day. So act now with no hard credit pull up front. Loanpronto.com, 619-207-4336. Get the money you need for anything. 619-207-4336. Loanpronto.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Thanks to Kyle for joining us there. The one storyline in the NFL this weekend that isn't about a three-peat or Saquon shoving it to the Eagles, I found it. And it's actually kind of concerning if you're an Eagles fan, to be honest with you. So Jalen Carter, who is an all-pro defensive tackle, he has been incredible for the Eagles this year and in the postseason. He's just he's a one-man wrecking crew. He has been really good for this Eagles defensive front. He's dealing with an illness that, according to reports, is spreading around the locker room. He has missed practice all this week, and Vic Fangio has said he is hopeful that Carter will play in the Super Bowl on Sunday. He's going to play in the Super Bowl. They're going to shoot him up with everything, and he'll be fine. But still, you won't. I mean, if you're going in that game coming off a major sickness, you're not like fully 100%. So if I was an Eagles fan, would I be concerned a little bit? Like a little bit. He's not dealing with any injuries, but I mean, when you're dealing with an illness that's kept you out of practice all week, that's something to monitor.
I wouldn't be concerned about him because it's Thursday. And like you said, they'll have him cooked up to an IV, pumping him full of fluids to get it all out of his system. So I think he'll be fine by Sunday. The thing that I would be concerned about is the part that you said that it's starting to spread around the locker room, because he got sick early enough that he's probably going to be okay and he'll be able to play. But say another player, if he gets sick tomorrow or Saturday, I don't know if they would be able to play depending on what it is.
So then my question is this food poisoning? And what did he eat in New Orleans? Who gave him the raw chicken? Who gave him the nasty gumbo? Exactly. Who put the random stuff in his food to make him sick?
Probably the same person that gave Jordan those poison pizzas in Utah, allegedly.
Hey, if all of a sudden an Uber driver gets a call one night and, what? Going to the hotel? Potentially an Eagles player? And what if the Uber driver was a Chiefs fan? I don't know, man. Conspiracies galore. But there it is. That to me is now the number one thing I'm looking at if I'm an Eagles fan in this game is, one, the health of Jalen Carter, and two, if this is truly an illness that is spreading around the Eagles locker room, hopefully it doesn't affect anybody on Sunday. Now, they're going to they probably have been pumping with IVs nonstop the last couple days.
They probably got the whole team, hopped up on, emergency and all that other stuff to boost their immune systems to keep them from getting sick now that they go, no, something's going around.
And they're an NFL team, so they have the best possible medical care that you could give an athlete to get over a sickness as quickly as possible. If it was me or you, the sickness might last for a week. If it's an NFL player, probably a couple days. But that's, to me, like the story right now that I look at is his availability, which he's going to play in the game. I have no doubt about that. But how effective he's going to be off of his illness, and does that illness play any role with him on Sunday? Because he is so important to the Eagles defense. He is the Eagles' Chris Jones. He is the guy up front that has been so important for this Eagles defense this year and in the postseason. The fact that he fell to Eagles when he did in the draft a couple years ago because of, his off the field issues, going to the Eagles was like a perfect situation for this guy. And if he's not 100% on Sunday for the Super Bowl, that's going to be a problem if you're an Eagles fan. So there you go. That's the one interesting, got to keep your eye on story for Super Bowl 59 as of right now, unless something else pops up, unless an injury pops up, which it hasn't with either team. I mean, this is not an injury, it's an illness. But to hear Vic Fangio say things like, I hope he's ready for Sunday. Excuse me, what?
I just hope that it doesn't become the story of the game. Say hypothetically that, say the Chiefs go in there, they just kick their ass now. And then afterwards they're like, oh, well, the only reason the Chiefs won was because all the Eagles had the flu.
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
I don't want some, excuse or anything after the game or anything to be like, oh, well, if they weren't sick, it would have been a completely different game. That's my biggest worry as a fan, that really is just hoping for a good game, because I don't really care about either team.
Yeah, Aaron would not want to see that. Eagles fans wouldn't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. Go out there, everybody at their best, 100%, ready to go. All right, coming up next, we have the wrap. Also, 445 Terminac Radio, your chance to win some Aztec tickets as they take on Boise State next Saturday here at Viejas Arena. John Ireland is going to join us at 5 p.m. We were going to talk to him about Saturday's game, but now we have to talk about Monday's game, because that's, I guess, when Luka will be making his Lakers debut. But it's the same. I mean, he's going to make his debut at some point. So we'll get John Ireland's thoughts on all of that. Stay with us right here. More Jon and Jim coming up next.
This report is sponsored by eBay. Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was sentenced to 57 months in prison today. He was sentenced to nearly 5 years in prison for stealing around $17 million from Shohei Ohtani to repay gambling debts. In NFL news, Chicago Bears owner Virginia McCaskey passed away today at the age of 102. And the NBA trade deadline has come and gone. And one of the players that did not move today was Kevin Durant. He is going to stay in Phoenix. The Lakers did make one more move. They picked up center Mark Williams from the Hornets, and they sent Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, a 2031 unprotected first-round pick, and a 2030 pick swap to Charlotte. Williams averaged 16 points and just under 10 boards this year for the Hornets. And in one last NBA note, the Nets are working on a buyout for forward Ben Simmons. Swapping out your tires, there's nothing like it. With eBay, you'll find the feel you're looking for, from smooth highway rides to grip for rough terrain. Get all the tires you need at the prices you love. eBay, things people love.
All right, the Aztecs are back on the road Saturday night when they take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage begins at 6 p.m. Ted has the tip after 7 right here on your home of the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. Still have Aztec tickets to give away later this hour during Trainwreck Radio. And then John Ireland's going to join us, voice of the Lakers, at 5 p.m. But right now, let's get to this.
It's time for The Wrap, presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Besides quarterback, what player is going to be the most important player on Sunday in the Super Bowl?
It's Saquon Barkley. It's Saquon Barkley. If Saquon has like 130 yards rushing and a touchdown, the Eagles probably win the game. If Saquon has under 100 yards rushing, no touchdowns, the Eagles probably lose the game. So I think if you just show me the box score for Saquon for this Sunday, I am pretty confident that I can tell you who won or lost the game. And if Saquon has a good game, advantage to me, Eagles. That's just how I view it. I think he's going to need at least 25 touches in the game, minimum. I think Jalen Hurts has been doing a good job of protecting the football, but you don't want to give him too much to do on Sunday. This is a Saquon Barkley game. This is, you want to win the Super Bowl on Sunday, you live and die with Saquon Barkley. That's just how I view it. You got him for a reason, and this is the reason. I think he's the most important player in the game besides the quarterbacks. And hell, I can make an argument that he's the most important player of the game, including the quarterbacks. But it's hard to say that when Patrick Mahomes is out there, on their side of the football. So I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley as the most important non-QB in the game.
Will Kevin Durant ever win another NBA title without Steph Curry?
So he did not want to go back to the Warriors. A trade was in place yesterday where he was going to go back to the Warriors. And he said, nah, I'm good. I don't want to do that. Now, I think some of it has to do with Draymond. But I think a lot of it has to do with, look, when KD went to the Warriors, he got so much crap because it was like, you're just going there to get a title and then you're going to bounce. They don't really need you. They just won the NBA Finals last year. They just won 73 games. Do they really need you? I don't think the Warriors win those back-to-back titles and make 3 straight NBA Finals appearances with him, or without him, excuse me. I just think he's just is a little bitter. He wants to be respected, and he wants to be viewed as a guy that was the main reason why the Warriors won those 2 championships, but he wasn't. Hey, you never won one without Steph Curry. Kind of makes you wonder. But I don't think KD is going to ever win another NBA championship. The Suns are not good this year. They're very mid. And with the drama now around Katie almost getting traded, and the reason why they couldn't get Jimmy Butler was because of Bradley Beal and the awkwardness there. I just think he's forever going to go about his days as the guy that was a mercenary hired by the Warriors and only won because he needed to be with Steph Curry. All right, next question.
Speaking of the Warriors, will they win a round in the playoffs with Jimmy Butler on the team?
Well, they're going to have to make the playoffs first. I saw something the other day, and ESPN always does this, where they put out, like, if there's a trade that goes down, and they put out the new projected starting five. And they're like, how far will this new projected five go? I quote tweeted and I said, how far away is Cancun? They got to get there first. Right now, they're not even in the postseason. They're not even in the play-in game. And there's about a half a season left. A little less than that, because I think there's been, 51 games played? I mean, you got about almost less than 30 games left.
Yeah, because their All-Star break isn't at the halfway point like baseball. It's pretty much at the 3/4 of the way point. So,
to me, I think it's going to be next year when the Warriors are going to have to try to make their run. This year doesn't feel like it. It's too much time has passed. I think they're going to need to figure out how to mesh, and it's not going to take overnight. It's going to take a little while. If they make the postseason, though, I'm going to say they don't win a playoff round. I'm going to say they do well, probably go 6 games with the team, but they got to get past the play-in tournament, and they got to go play on the road against potentially the Denver Nuggets. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. All right, next question, Brett.
What's the one team you want to see the Aztecs play in the Players Era tournament next year?
There are so many good teams in this Players Era tournament. We talked about it earlier in the show. And John's right. And he puts on Twitter that this is the best tournament. What was his exact wording? It's the best non-conference tournament field ever put together with no close second. Yeah, I agree. If I were to pick one team I'd absolutely want to see them play, and how could you not say Kansas? I mean, Kansas for sure. I mean, Auburn, yeah. I don't know if Michigan's any good or if they're going to be any good. Gonzaga, yeah, I'd like to see that, but you're going to see that every year now in the new Pac-12. So I would take Kansas. I would take Kansas followed by Auburn. Screw it. Give me Michigan again, or Alabama, or Houston. I mean, there's so many teams. There's so many different matchups that you could look at, and you're like, I like that one. I like that one. I like that one. It's just a stacked field. It's a stacked field, and it makes it maybe, I'm not going to say that much more important, but it would be nice if going into next season, San Diego State has a majority of the core of this team returning. I mean, going into this Players Era tournament just on face alone, it's going to be a gauntlet. But if you're an Aztecs fan, how much more confident would you be if this team went into this Players Era tournament with Miles Bird back, with Nick Boyd back, Farrow, Taj DeGorville, Magoon for another season, BJ Davis, if you could retain all those guys, and again, that's tough. That's much easier said than done, but you retain the core of this team, and then you also will add to it to the transfer portal, which Dutch does every single year. I have no idea what Reese Waters is going to do. My guess is he leaves. My guess is he does not return for another season, and that he tries to play at least at some point in the remainder of this year. I just don't see him ended up redshirting the season and then returning next year. I think he either goes and tries to go pro, or he does return and play a little bit this season and then go pro after. I don't envision him redshirting at all. Could be wrong, but I just don't see that happening. But if you brought that core of players that I just named to this Players Era tournament next year, I mean, we've already talked about it on the show. If they brought back a majority of those guys, say they do lose one player, still, you bring back a majority of those players, you could be ranked inside the top 25 at the start of next season. Now, the question is, all right, who absolutely has to return? To me, Miles Bird, Magoon Gwath, Nick Boyd, if he decides to return and not go pro or go international. I mean, I'd love Taj DeGorville to return and Farrell Compton. BJ Davis has shown a lot of promise this year. He's had some ups and downs recently, but start of the season was fantastic. To me, it's Miles Bird. He returns next year. This team has a real good shot at the start of the season, regardless of who they lose or whatnot, to be ranked inside the top 25. And to have that and then go into this tournament with the likes of Tennessee and Kansas and Auburn, Alabama, Creighton, Houston, Notre Dame, Oregon, Rutgers, Texas A&M, Baylor, Gonzaga, Iowa State, Michigan, St. Joe's, St. John's, Syracuse. It's just going to make you feel confident as an Aztec fan. And they've shown this year they can play with anybody. They've absolutely shown, hey, we can play with anybody in the country. The win over Houston, the win over Creighton, yes, it was on a neutral floor. But still, look at what Houston's done since. They haven't lost. And because of that, that just proves that this San Diego State team, as it's constructed right now, even without Reese Waters, by the way, can play with anybody in the country. Even the Gonzaga game early on in the year, Gonzaga was ranked inside the top. I think they were ranked third in the country. Miles was not Miles. He was not 100%. He was out there. But they hung with him. And if Miles was healthy, I think it's a completely different game. All right, coming up next. Call right now. 877-767-4760. We need 2 contestants for Trainwreck Radio. We're giving away a pair of Aztec tickets as they take on Boise State next Saturday here at Viejas Arena. 877-767-4760. We're looking for 2 contestants for Trainwreck Radio for your chance to win some Aztec tickets as they take on Boise State next Saturday here at Viejas Arena. 877-767-4760. Trainwreck Radio coming up next. So I put out on Twitter last night, Brent, and we played this audio yesterday of Miguel Rojas. And it's been picked up by Dodger trolls. Not surprising. And you heard Miguel Rojas yesterday say how great the Padres were. Oh, they're so great. Man, we were such a scrappy team. We had so many problems. Oh, big underdogs.
Still having nightmares about how good they were.
Yeah, the Padres were so good. I can't believe we beat them. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we beat them with our Hall of Fame top 3 in a lineup. Oh, and our $325 million starting pitcher that we got in the offseason. And our highest payroll in baseball. And our number 1 seed in the postseason. And our home field advantage. I can't believe we got past the mighty Padres. So I quote tweeted this yesterday, sarcastically saying, look at us. We were the scrappy underdog LA Dodgers. And it blew up with Dodger trolls. Let me just remind you, because this is about 99% of the Dodger trolls in my comments right now, which I'm not looking at. So congratulations, you're talking to a wall. Do you see all the experts and they picked the Padres to win that series? They were the underdogs. Listen here, idiots. That doesn't mean they were the underdogs. Some random people picking a team to win does not say a team is an underdog. Vegas had the Dodgers as the favorites to win this series. That determines if you're an underdog or not. If me and Brent today both picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, are the Chiefs now the underdog of the Super Bowl? No. The betting line is Chiefs minus 1.5. They are the favorites in the Super Bowl. Morons. Understand when someone is an underdog and when somebody is a favorite and how it works. It doesn't work by Dontrell Willis and Big Papi and A-Rod picking the Padres to beat you in a postseason series.
I also thought it was funny too. They're like, you guys were the yeah, we were the favorite for about 5 minutes
for a game because they had a 2-1 series lead. As I mentioned, going into the series, the Dodgers had home field. They had Shohei Ohtani. They were the favorites. End of discussion. That's it. So continue with your dumb narrative. It's ridiculous. It's not a narrative. It's false. You were never the underdogs. Never. And you never will be for the foreseeable future. All right, Brent, let's get to this.
I just thought if I didn't have enough time, I should have put bleeps in this too. 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants. We have Tom and we have Brandon. Tom, you called in first, so that means you're going to get to go first today since you're both going to have Jim as your lifeline, okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, guys. Did we mention the Super Bowl's on Sunday yet? Well, it is. And
yeah, it is.
Did you know that in Super Bowl history, there have been 6 quarterbacks that have thrown for over 1,000 yards in the Super Bowl for their careers? Today's question: name any of those 6 players that have thrown for over 1,000 yards in their career in Super Bowls.
All right. So, Tom, you're up first. What is your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
I think I will go with Tom Brady.
Probably a good guess. You played 10. Good guess. Brandon, you're up next. What is your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Let's go with John Elway.
John Elway. Okay. There we go. Round 2. Tom, you're up. What's your second guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Let's go Joe Montana.
Joe Montana. There you go. Brandon, you're up next. What's your second guess? Do you have a lifeline if you want to use it?
How about Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. Patrick Mahomes on the list. Tom, to go 3 for 3, what is your final guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
I'll go with the lifeline. See what you got here.
Okay. I was going to go old school here, and I was going to go Terry Bradshaw. Do you take that?
I will accept that. Sure.
Oh, I'm such an idiot.
Oh,
No, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry, Tom. That means Brandon can walk off here
that's all right.
with the correct answer.
I was thinking Bradshaw.
Brandon, what is your final guess? And you do have a lifeline still if you want to use it.
If you even want it after that
if
answer.
you wanted it after that dumb answer.
I think I'll pass on that one. I'll go
Okay.
with Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I let you down, Tom. I'm so sorry. Because I was thinking Peyton, but then I was like, he played in 3 Super Bowls, right? And the one Super Bowl he got
4.
4?
Yeah, because he played in 1 with the Colts.
And 3 with the Broncos?
Yeah, apparently. But yeah, he's in 3 Super
He
Bowls.
was in 3?
Yeah.
No, you said 4.
No, yeah, he was in 4 Super Bowls.
What 4? He was with 2 with the Broncos and
Well, they're
one,
not listed, but they have him down for 4 Super Bowls.
Am I missing something here? He was with 1 with the Colts.
No, he had 2 with the Colts because they beat the Saints the
yes,
1 year.
yes,
So he
you're right.
Bears, Saints, and then the 2 with the Broncos.
You're right.
Well, there's only 1 left. Do you have a guess?
Is it Aikman?
No, that's a good guess though.
Is it Kurt Warner?
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously, Brady's number 1 with like 3,000 yards in his career.
Yeah.
Then it's Kurt Warner, then Montana, then Elway, then Mahomes, then Peyton. Terry Bradshaw was a good guess, but he was about 68 yards short. So,
All right. Congratulations to Brandon. You won a pair of tickets to see San Diego State take on Boise State next Saturday night at Viejas Arena. Congratulations to you. All right. Coming up next, voice of the Lakers, John Ireland, is going to join us. Luka was expected to make his debut on Saturday, but now it looks like it's being pushed back to Monday night. But we'll get John Ireland's thoughts on the trade and what he expects to see from Luka in a Lakers jersey. All that coming up next.
This report is sponsored by Angelo's Towing. In sort of Major League Baseball news, Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was sentenced to 57 months in prison today. He was sentenced to nearly 5 years in prison for stealing around $17 million from Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani to repay his gambling debts. In NFL news, the Bears owner, Virginia McCaskey, has died today at the age of 102. And the NBA trade deadline has come and gone. The Lakers did make one more trade, picking up center Mark Williams from the Hornets for Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, a 2031 unprotected first-round pick, and a 2030 pick swap. Williams averaged 16 points on just under 60% shooting and 10 rebounds this year for the Hornets. You can catch the Lakers tonight when they take on the Warriors. Tip-off is at 7 o'clock right here on San Diego Sports 760. Stuck on the road? Angelo's Towing is here for you 24/7 with over 20 years of experience offering towing and roadside services. For friendly, fast service, call Angelo's Towing at 619-702-8888 or visit angelostowing.com.
All right, final hour here on Jon and Jim. My back page still at 5:45. We're giving away Simple Mind tickets this hour as well, so stay tuned for that. But right now, it's great to be joined by the voice of the Lakers, John Ireland, joining us once again on San Diego Sports 760. Reminder, you can hear his voice and Lakers basketball tonight on the station as they take on the Warriors, 7 p.m. tip right here on San Diego Sports 760. John, have you been able to fully process the Luka trade yet, or is it going to take a couple more days? I mean, it's been a week almost, but I feel like in Lakers land, fans and everybody is still like, wait, that really happened?
Jim, it's so hard to comprehend that the Mavericks would trade Luka Doncic that I think all of us are wondering, do they know something we don't? Why would you do this? Mm-hmm. And that's been the feeling in the back of my head for a few days since this happened on Saturday. And so until I see him play, until I've maybe got 2 weeks of games under his belt, and I have an answer to that question, I don't think I'll fully comprehend it at all. I mean, he's 25 years old and he has 5 NBA first team selections. I mean, that's almost unprecedented. And the Mavericks just gave up on him. I don't get it. Maybe they know something we don't, or maybe there's an owner down in Dallas. You know, Mark Cuban doesn't own that team anymore, that just told his GM, you have to do this, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. We're going to wait on that 30 for 30 down the road of why Luka was traded from the Mavericks. But until then, we're just going to keep guessing on the actual reason why. I mean, he's out of shape and this and that. He doesn't like to take the Supermax. He looked pretty good to me in a Lakers uniform just in practice right now. John Ireland joined us here on Jon and Jim. You know, now Luka, this is Luka's team, right? Like LeBron is there, obviously, and this has been LeBron's team for the last half decade. But at the same time, it feels like the changing of the guard has happened right before our eyes.
Well, what I don't know if I would say it's not LeBron's team anymore. I think they're going to share it. But what this did do, to your point, is it set the Lakers up for the next decade. Mm-hmm. I think LeBron, a lot of people thought LeBron might ask for a trade or, get mad that, he doesn't have Anthony Davis with him anymore. None of those things happened. I think, LeBron's number one thing that he's always kind of talked about is that he wants to win. I mean, you remember, Jim, that he got rid of Dwayne Wade, one of his best friends, when he had him on the Cavs roster several years ago. So I don't think he plays any favorites when it comes to winning. And so I would say for now that it's kind of both of their team. But LeBron, once he steps down, and I should point out, and I think you know this, LeBron is playing at a level that nobody can really understand. He's the oldest player in the league. He's 40. But you could make an argument, a legitimate argument, that he might be first team All-NBA this year. I think 4 of those spots are locked. I think SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Donovan Mitchell are the guards. Nikola Jokic is the center. And Giannis is one of the forwards. But that 5th spot, I think I could make a legitimate argument. I mean, you certainly could make one for Jason Tatum. There's other guys around the league you could make the argument for, but you could certainly make it for LeBron. He's been the best player on the Lakers for probably 2-3 weeks now. And what he did the other night in New York, when he just took the game over against the Knicks and then followed it up by doing the same thing against the Clippers, LeBron's not ready to retire. I'd be shocked if he retires at the end of this year. I think he could play 2 or 3 more years. So I don't think he's ready to say it's not his team yet.
Yeah, it's incredible the way that LeBron has been playing. And the Lakers have been playing much better basketball. They're within a couple games of the 5 seed. I mean, they are playing at a level that if Luka fits like a glove, like a lot of people might think him and LeBron together, they can make a real run here for potentially home court. Do you feel like Luka, and then the trade obviously last night with Dalton Connect and Cam Reddish picking up Mark Williams from the Hornets, now this roster together as it is constructed after the trade deadline, what's the ceiling, do you think, for this newly look Lakers team?
I don't think there is one. I think they can win the whole thing. But if you put a gun to my head and say, pick 2 teams that you would take to win the whole thing, I would still take OKC and Cleveland. They've been the best teams all year. But the Lakers are their odds in Vegas, and I always think Vegas is a good indicator because, they only care about money. They don't care about your feelings or my feelings or who they think a better. What they're talking about is money. And the Lakers before these trades were 40-1 to win the NBA title. Now they're 15-1. So that's how much they jumped up. And again, I don't think, Jim, we can make assumptions until we see how all this works.
Right.
Offensively, they're going to be almost impossible to guard. Austin Reeves is having a career year. LeBron and Luka almost command a double team. If you don't double team them, they're just going to score, which means that guys like Reeves and Rui Hachimura and Dorian Finney-Smith and Gabe Vincent are going to have wide open shots. And if they can knock down those shots, the Lakers are going to have an almost unstoppable offense. Now, the flip side of that is, can they still defend? Luka's not a great defender. LeBron is not the defender he used to be. Austin gets targeted a lot. So we might have some games that are like 140-135. But until I see what they do offensively and defensively, it's hard to answer any questions about it. I will say that their defense, Jim, over the past, on this Grammy road trip, they went 5-1. Their defense in that stretch, they had one bad game in Philadelphia where they really laid an egg. But the other 5 games, that defense, I've been with the Lakers in one way or another and traveling with them full time since 2002. The defense they played was championship level defense, like the stuff they used to do with Shaq and Kobe or Kobe and Powell over the last 2 weeks. Now we got a new team and we got different guys. We got to put Luka in there. We got to put Mark Williams in there to see if they can keep it up. But collectively as a team, their defense has been lights out.
And losing Anthony Davis on the defensive end, it really impacts them. But, this league, you've been around it forever. Now it's, if you can score the basketball, if you play a little defense like the Lakers have been playing recently, you can win a lot of basketball games. The loss of Anthony Davis here, I feel like nobody's talking about it because everyone's like, Luka's such a great player. But do you see a real impact of the loss of AD, or just like Luka, because of how great he is, and they've kind of changed up their team here, getting Mark Williams from the Hornets, that you're not going to notice it that much, or are you going to notice it, you think?
I'll say this, Jim, if you hear anybody who works for the Lakers say anything bad about Anthony Davis, I would be shocked. Mm-hmm. He was as good offensively and defensively as you could have asked the entire time he was here. He was a great player. He was a great guy. I kind of look at the dichotomy of how the Mavericks are talking about Luka and saying, well, he was bad for our culture and he wasn't in shape. You don't hear any of that about AD, and I don't think you ever will. He is an extraordinary basketball player. I don't know if you know this, but when he was in high school, he was 6'1". And after his sophomore year of high school, he had a growth spurt. So he grew 9 inches between his sophomore year of high school and his freshman year at Kentucky, when he led Kentucky to the national title. And the reason I bring that up is he grew up as a guard. So he could guard, Jim, all 5 of the other guys, no matter who they were. I've seen him switch on to Steph Curry and shut him down. I've seen him guard Jokic and shut him down. You hear all the time, somebody can guard all 5 positions. He could actually do it. And he was really good at it. I've never seen personally anybody as good at it as he was. I think he makes Dallas a legitimate contender in the West if they can get their act together. But to your point, you asked, are people talking enough about Anthony Davis? The answer is no. He's the second or third best big man in the NBA. I think he makes Dallas way better. And I don't think his story is over. I think he could lead the Mavericks. How about this? Can you imagine if Dallas and the Lakers met in the finals?
Oh,
in the Western Conference Finals? I don't think it'll happen because Oklahoma City is really, really good.
Yeah.
And they're going to have home court. But if that happened, I think it would be the highest rated Western Conference Finals in 30 years.
The smile on Adam Silver's face, you couldn't contain it. It'd be the biggest smile you'd ever see on Adam Silver. John Ireland, join us here on Jon Jim. A couple more minutes with the voice of the Lakers. Just what was your take on the entirety of this trade deadline? I said it was the wildest, probably the most shocking trade deadline in NBA history. What's your take on that?
I agree with you, and I'm surprised by it because the rules are so restrictive now. It's harder to make trades than it ever was before because of this collective bargaining agreement. You got aprons, and you got to make the money match, and you can't take this guy because the salaries don't work out. And I thought it was going to be really hard for teams to make trades. And then the next thing you know, there goes AD, there goes Luka, there goes Jimmy Butler, there goes DeAndre Hunter, like a number of really good players got traded, and I think it's going to make for a really fun second half. A player movement, Jim, is good. I always kind of shake my head at the NBA when they make rules to discourage player movement. Fans love it. Look at how excited the Laker fans are. And this could crash and burn, or it could be a huge success. But either way, we're all talking about it. I wouldn't be on your show if it didn't happen. The reason that I think player movement is good in the NBA is it gets everybody excited. And I hope that every trade deadline's like this. This is great.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's Super Bowl week, and all anybody's talking about is the NBA and the trade deadline.
Yeah, how about that? What were the odds that the NBA could knock out Super Bowl week? But they did it.
Yeah, they said, they're like, you took Christmas from us, so we're going to take Super Bowl week from you. John Ireland. Yeah, exactly. John Ireland, voice of the Lakers. Again, we have Lakers basketball tonight right here on San Diego Sports 760 as they take on the Warriors. You can hear John along with Michael Thompson on the call. John, thanks for joining us. Have a great call tonight, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks for having me on, Jim. Have a great show.
All right, John Ireland, voice of the Lakers there. Yeah, he's right. Player movement in the NBA is something that the NBA should encourage because the opportunities for stars to line up together and play with each other that haven't played with each other before is something that really intrigues the casual fan. And it just intrigues the fan bases. I mean, if you told me 2 years ago, hell, if you told me 2 weeks ago that LeBron and Luka would be playing together in a Lakers uniform, or hell, just playing together in general, even on an all-star team, I'd be like, that'd be cool. Well, and now they're playing together on the same team that isn't an all-star game. Dude, yeah, sign me up. Even though I don't like the Lakers, sign me up.
I figured if you would have been like, oh yeah, Luka's a Laker, I was like, what? They traded LeBron?
Right. Like,
it would be like, oh no, they got Luka without trading LeBron. It's like, huh?
Yeah, like LeBron's still there. John Ireland, and I agree with him. The moves that the Lakers have made, the move last night at the last minute, Dalton Connect, for Mark Williams of the Hornets, a guy that is a lob threat. He's averaging 16 points per game. He
Just under 10 boards.
He's a rebounding machine. I mean, look at his last 3 games. Last game, not so great, but the 2 games before that, 15 rebounds and 14 rebounds. It is funny that Anthony Davis was telling the Lakers, give me a rim protector. Give me, or not a rim protector. Give me a center to play with. Give me a center to play with. Well, the Lakers got a center, but then they shipped you off right before that. So the new look Lakers probably won't be fully ready to go until about Monday. So we're gonna have to wait a couple days, but in the meantime, Lakers basketball tonight against the Warriors right here on San Diego Sports 760. All right. Coming up next. Why is John Fisher given any prominent role in baseball? We'll talk about that coming up next. on Jon and Jim. Thanks to John Ireland joining us there. You're going to hear his voice tonight. Lakers basketball. They take on my Warriors. Bottom of the hour, if you missed our conversation with Kyle Glaser, you're going to hear that at 5:30. So John Fisher today, Brent. Today was the last day of the owners meetings. And John Fisher, the worst owner in baseball by far.
I say he still gets invited to those things.
I mean, he's an owner. Today, Major League Baseball owners elevated A's owner John Fisher to their executive committee. I don't even know what the executive committee does, but it sounds important. And John Fisher being any part of anything important in baseball, as far as any type of committee goes, is ridiculous. This dude just completely played out a scene from Major League with his own ball club. He openly sabotaged it. He didn't give two you-know-whats about the fan base. He moved the team to Sacramento. He then said, we're not going to call the team the Sacramento A's. We're just going to call them the A's. No. You're going to be called the Sacramento A's. The Mercury News up in the Bay Area, the main newspaper that covers Oakland sports and covered the A's, they said, yeah, no, we don't care what John Fisher wants. When we report on the A's, we will be reporting on the A's as the Sacramento A's. The worst owner, arguably in sports. I mean, you could argue he is the worst owner in sports. And he gets elevated to a what? Executive committee? Now, again, do I know what the executive committee does? No.
Hopefully nothing.
But
hopefully it's just a title.
But whatever it is, I don't want John Fisher around it. Like, how tone deaf can you be after what just happened in Oakland to then elevate him for anything, even if he's not going to do anything, just the sheer press release or the reports out that John Fisher is elevated to any type of executive role in baseball is insane to me. And then, like, Las Vegas hasn't even. Does Las Vegas even want them? No, they don't.
Are we alive back there?
The greatest drop ever.
Are we alive back there?
No, they don't. And you give this guy executive committee duties. It just reeks of awful optics. Read the room, guys. And this ain't it. I mean, you give an owner who actively said F you to its own fan base for decades, for years, a role in an executive committee. Yeah, I mean, guy screws over Oakland and then gets promoted? That doesn't make much sense. How does that work? So, John Fisher, worst owner in baseball by far, pushing worst owner in all of sports, gets a promotion today? Okay. I just, whatever. And then also coming out of the winter, or not the winter meetings, but the owners meetings, Rob Manfred, Dodgers are not ruining baseball, he claims. I agree that they're not ruining baseball, but baseball's not helping themselves. The Dodgers are doing what they're supposed to do. They're spending the money. Why can't the other teams do that? That's where the biggest issue comes here. So today at the owners' meetings, you had these stories. You had John Fisher being elevated and getting a promotion into some type of executive committee. You had Rob Manfred saying that, no, the Dodgers aren't ruining baseball. Everything's fine. And then you had John Fisher. Sorry, not John Fisher. John Seidler. Had my Johns mixed up. John Seidler be approved as the Padres control person. And now we also know what he looks like. A lot of news today out of those very most likely always boring owners meetings. So we know what John Fisher's doing now. He's getting a promotion. We know that baseball and Rob Manfred doesn't really think the Dodgers are ruining baseball. Kind of agree. And we know what John Seidler looks like because Kevin AC posted a picture of him today in a Padres uniform. Very, very, very coincidentally posted him in a Padres uniform or Padres jersey. Not a uniform, but a jersey. I don't think that was by accident. I think that when he posted his article, hey, Kevin, here's a picture of John. This is the one we want out there. Okay.
I'd be more into that if like you could spot like the tag on his jersey or something.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
like
jersey.
he just came from the team store and they just threw a jersey on him. They didn't even take the tags off. I was like, hey, Padres #1.
Well, he does mention that John Seidler was at a majority of baseball games last year. I mean, you ask a lot of people out around the ballpark, they wouldn't know. I mean, that's not a bad thing. It's just, no one knew. Nobody knew he was there. And now he's the control person of the team. He's like the front-facing person of this team, going to all the owner meetings. When we talk about this team, it's John Seidler, Eric Krupner, and AJ Preller. Those are the top three right there. Probably in order. So we'll wait to see if anything changes with John as the control person. But until something happens, it's hard not to sit here and continue to ask the question, are you going to do anything differently or are you going to continue to not spend money? So we'll see. All right. If you missed Kyle Glaser, his conversation earlier in the show, you're going to hear that coming up next right here on Jon and Jim.
trade deadline has come and gone, and one of the players that did not get traded was Kevin Durant. He is going to stick around in Phoenix. The Lakers did make one more trade. They picked up center Mark Williams from Charlotte for Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, a 2031 unprotected first-round pick, and a 2030 pick swap. Williams averaged 16 points on just under 60% shooting and just under 10 rebounds a game for the Hornets this season. You can catch the Lakers tonight when they take on Golden State. Our coverage starts tonight right here at 7:00. We all got a thing. Yes, even you. If you love fashion, car parts, trading cards, whatever you're into, it's on eBay. So go find the thing that keeps you up at night. eBay, things people love.
Jon and Jim. Kyle Glaser, he joined us earlier in the show. He has a brand new podcast now for all Padres fans out there. So we open up our conversation with Kyle Glaser talking about just that.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously Foul Territory, the National Baseball show, started up about a year ago, and they had me on very frequently as a guest, and they've started branching out into doing team-specific shows, and they were kind enough to ask me if I wanted to launch and host a Padres show. So we jumped on the air at the end of last month. Mike Cameron and Heath Bell, two Padres favorites, are co-hosting with me. So every Monday and Thursday, we've got shows with Mike and Heath just talking about their stories with the Padres, what's going on with the current team, trends in Major League Baseball as a whole. It's been a lot of fun, and I encourage everyone to check it out on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, every Monday and Thursday.
Love it. Absolutely love it. All right, let's get into the Padres offseason. All right, thanks for joining us, Kyle. Really appreciate it. I mean, there's not a lot going on with this team. Elias Diaz is now a part of this team. I don't know how much this really helps them. They lost Jurickson Profar. You know, how concerned are you about the holes on this team going into spring training, pitchers and catchers reporting next week?
Yeah, look, you definitely have to acknowledge that they're there. The bottom third of the lineup isn't as strong as you'd like it to be. The back rotation isn't as strong as you'd like it to be. And the bench is particularly weak. And on top of that, there's really not much position player depth in the upper levels of the minors. And this is where AJ Preller and his lieutenants are going to have to really, really dig deep, use their scouting acumen, and find some bargains. You know, we saw last year they were able to get guys like Donovan Solano on a minor league deal. David Peralta, they picked up mid-season off waivers. They're going to have to really, really do a good job of finding guys who, for whatever reason, aren't available, but, you know, maybe still have something to offer. This is where, you know, again, AJ Preller has always been known as a scout at heart. He's an executive in title, but a scout at heart. He's done a good job, as have his lieutenants the last 2 years, finding some under-the-radar guys, helping them get better and improve. Now they have to do it again.
Kyle Glaser joining us here on Jon and Jim, host of the new Friar Territory podcast on YouTube. Check it out if you're a Padres fan. The whole conversation around Dylan Cease and Michael King, I'm on the side, and I get the money aspect of it, Kyle. I really do. But I'm on the side of you have a real chance here with two frontline starters to really try to go for it this offseason. Where are you at with Dylan Cease and Michael King and the trade rumors around them? And what would you do if you were AJ Preller?
These are two of the best starting pitchers in baseball. And as long as you have them, you have a chance to compete. The only way you trade them is if the offer is so overwhelming you can't say no. We're talking multiple starters and you know, young big league position players who can step in right away. Again, AJ Preller, his MO has always been they're always going to talk players. They're always going to, you know, go through some very aggressive trade proposals and just have conversations. So the fact that there's conversations around players like Cease, like King, like Robert Suarez, like Luis Arias, all of whom have a chance to be free agents after next season, isn't a surprise. But I think with Cease and King in particular, again, it would have to be just an overwhelming kind of deal to move either of them.
Kyle, what do you make of the organizational depth with this team. Salas and DeVries are top 100 prospects, but other than that, it doesn't seem like there's that much there to work with.
No, there isn't. And look, that's a function of the Padres have aggressively traded prospects for big name veterans over the last 5 years. And at a certain point, you thin it out enough, there's just not going to be much left. Now, look, a lot of those trades have worked out. You look at Yu Darvish, you look at Joe Musgrove, you look at the Blake Snell trade. There's some others that haven't. Again, the Mike Clevenger trade, the Austin Nola trade. You know, they have some good young players in their farm system, but they're all teenagers who, for all intents and purposes, have yet to play above A ball. Ethan Salas has a little bit of time at AA, but not a significant amount. There's really nothing in the AA or AAA levels to get excited about, and that's something that, you know, isn't the case. You know, the Dodgers have guys they can pull up from. The Diamondbacks have guys they can pull up from. The Braves and Phillies have guys they can pull up from. The Padres don't really have guys that can pull up from to plug holes right now. So again, you're really, really hoping that, you know, some of these guys that came in on a minor league deal, that is just another great scouting job by AJ Preller and his lieutenants. But you can also say hope is not a strategy. So yeah, there's really not a lot.
Kyle Glaser joined us here on Jon and Jim. I mentioned Elias Diaz, their only major league signing of the offseason so far. They signed Martin Maldonado to a minor league contract. Obviously, this team has Luis Campusano as well. Higgy, to me, was a big surprise last year, giving them 18 home runs. How do you think they're going to replace that production that Higgy got last year? And do you think they can? And what's your take on Luis Campusano seemingly, once again, not going to be given the keys to the castle here come opening day?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to replace Kyle Higashioka's very surprising offensive contributions. And he's a really good defender, too. Look, Luis Campusano, the scouting report, the deal with him has always been the same. He's a very strong right-handed hitter with real power. And when his swing is right, he can do damage. He's got way too many moving parts going right now. He needs to simplify it. And there's a chance still that he will hit. Defensively, he's always been kind of on the border of whether you really want him behind the plate catching every day or not. And he's always had issues with maturity, leadership, building relationships with his pitchers, which you have to have. So there's been multiple times now the Padres have had the opportunity to turn over the keys to him, have chosen not to. And when they did last year, he lost the job pretty quickly to Kyle Higashioka. So they certainly wanted to shore the backstop position up. And given how acute their needs are in left field and the back of the rotation, the fact they chose to spend their limited financial resources on a catcher says a lot about what they think Luis Campusano is capable of giving them.
Kyle Glaser joining us here on Jon and Jim, host of the new Friar Territory podcast on YouTube. Jurickson Profar signed with the Braves, a team that's directly in competition now with the Padres for one of the playoff spots next year. The deal that he got, do you think it was a fair deal? Too much? Too little? Like, what did you make of the deal that Profar, eventually landed on?
I think he actually signed for less than I expected. When you look at other corner outfielders in his age bracket, that 30 to 33 range, you know, Teoscar Hernandez got an average of $22 million a year. Anthony Santander got a little over $18 million a year. Tyler O'Neill got a little over $16 million a year. Profar getting $14 million a year over 3 years is actually below market. So I actually thought that he was more likely to probably get, again, whether it was 3 for 48 or, 4 for 54, something like that. The fact he got 3 for 42, $14 million a year, it's actually a below market deal, and it's one that, I don't see any reason why the Braves would have hesitated to sign him for that if he was open to it.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, you heard Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. at FanFest. You could tell in their voice that losing Profar was a big blow to this team, because he was in every single, feels like, big moment last year with this club when they went on to win 93 games and eventually end up losing to the Dodgers in the division round. Kyle Glaser joining us here for a couple more minutes on Jon and Jim. Jackson Merrill put up an incredible rookie season, but the likelihood of him reproducing that exact type of year and even getting better, what are the chances you think that could happen? We saw Corbin Carroll last year not fall off a map, but he did not have anywhere close to good of a season as he did his rookie year. Is there any concern there with you that Jackson might not be able to put that type of season together for the Padres next year?
I mean, look, the sophomore slump is a real thing that afflicts many, many great players. So, I mean, I think you always have to be aware of it. But given Jackson Merrill's ability to adjust and just how incredible his season was, not just the way it is statistically, but for him to have never played a single professional game in center field, come up, take to the position, which is one of the most difficult to play in Major League Baseball, remarkably quickly, all while hitting Major League pitching, making the jump from AA straight up to the majors. I mean, he didn't hit below 260 after April 6th last year. It was consistent. It was steady. I mean, him and Jerks and Profar kept a team afloat offensively the entire first half. What he showed he was able to do, the adjustments he was able to make, how quickly he made them, and his maturity and his poise. I'm going to take the over on this kid every time just based on what he did last year. So, look, yeah, sophomore slumps, they happen. You have to be wary of them. But I think if you're going to bet on someone, you're going to bet on someone like Jackson Merrill with everything he's shown, both physically and just mentally, everything he can do on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I think putting your faith in Jackson Merrill is wise because of what he's shown you, his mentality, everything. Your bet on the kid, absolutely. Xander moving back to short this year. I know the team made a whole big thing about him moving to second last year, and it was better for the team, but now moving back to short. Do you think that's like a good move, or how do you view him now going back to short after they just moved him to second last year?
It's a move they had to make because they don't really have any other good options. Realistically, he, at this point, in his career, Xander Bogaerts was not moving great laterally at second base a lot of last year. Now he filled in at shortstop down the stretch and, did okay. It wasn't terrible. It was a small sample, but and look, he's been kind of declining defensively now for a little bit. That was behind the move. He's back at short because their only other real option would be to put Jackson Merrill there, but then they don't have a center fielder. So, I mean, this is kind of hoping and praying that having Manny Machado, beside him at third and Jake Cronenworth at second, two Gold Glove caliber defenders, can maybe cover up some of Bogaerts' holes lateral range-wise. But you're kind of hoping he can just be steady and make the routine plays. But the fantastic plays that we saw Ha-Seong Kim make the last couple of years, that's not going to be happening anymore at Petco Park. Xander Bogaerts just can't quite do that like he could in his youth anymore.
Yeah, well, hopefully they get some type of youth like from injection from Xander this year, because they're absolutely going to need him to perform. Final one, Kyle. Talking about this team's money issues, and right as of this moment, they are over the CBT luxury tax threshold with the signing of Elias Diaz, and seemingly them having to probably make some type of cost-cutting move here in the near future. What are your thoughts on potentially trying to move Robert Suarez to free up some money and some space for this team?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at the guys we're talking about who could potentially be moved, whether it's Cesar King or Luis Arias, it's where could the hole be patched most? And really the answer is in the bullpen. Obviously, Robert Suarez is one of the best closers in baseball, someone you don't want to move. But if they do trade him, you still have Jeremiah Estrada, you still have Javier Morejon, you still have Jason Adam, you still have a really good back of the bullpen. Whereas if you trade Dylan Cease or Michael King, you really don't have a very good rotation anymore. If you trade Luis Arias, your already shallow lineup just gets even shallower. So if they have to move someone, again, you don't ever want to trade away one of the best closers in baseball, but that would be the place they could trade from, and it probably wouldn't hurt them as much as some of the other places they would trade from.
Yeah, no doubt. Kyle Glaser, host of the new Friar Territory podcast on YouTube. Kyle, thanks for joining us, man. We'll talk soon. Have a great rest of your day, buddy.
Thanks.
All right, that was Kyle Glaser there. Join us earlier in the show. Coming up, we'll wrap everything up with my back page. Stay with us on Jon Jim. When the brights become the lightest, that's when the superstars shine. Or the shine superstars. That was a funny promo you just heard there. All right, final stop on Jon and Jim. Got a couple more minutes here in the show, so Brent, let's get to it real quick here. All right, just a couple stories here on the back page. Starbucks, the Monday after the Super Bowl, is giving away free coffee. Starbucks is making it a little easier with free coffee for rewards members on February 10th. Customers can grab a free tall 12-ounce brewed coffee, hot or iced, at participating U.S. locations. To redeem, just apply to the Starbucks Monday coupon in the app when ordering ahead, or simply mention it to a barista in store or at the drive-thru. If you're not a rewards member, you can sign up by 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on February 9th to get the offer automatically, or ask a barista in store on Monday. The deal excludes Nitro Cold Brew, and Starbucks Reserve Coffee. If plain coffee isn't your thing, Starbucks Valentine's Day menu has already launched, featuring favorites like the chocolate-covered strawberry cream frappuccino, the chocolate hazelnut cookie cold brew, plus the new blackberry sage refresher, which can be customized with lemonade or coconut milk. So I think that's pretty cool. Like, you know, we all are talking, not we all, but there has been in the past, like, why isn't the Monday after the Super Bowl a national holiday?
It's getting closer to happening, actually.
One of these days, it probably will. One of these days,
within the next 10 years, it probably will be.
I think something potentially could happen there, because the Super Bowl is only getting bigger and bigger. I mean, it's a behemoth. Like I said, 120 plus million people will watch on Sunday, maybe more, depending if the game is good or not. I mean, if the game is really close and it's really good in the fourth quarter, that thing could peak. I mean, well over 120 million.
Well, yeah, because you're going to get people that they're going to say they don't want anything to do with it.
And they'll watch.
But if, you know, and they might not watch, but if someone goes, oh, yeah, it's, you know, halfway through the third quarter, it's 24-24, they might go, oh, okay. And then they'll turn the game on to see how it ends.
Yes, I'm excited to watch football, but this year I will be watching, just me personally, stress-free. And when the new Superman trailer drops during the game, that's what I'm kind of like really looking forward to.
Well, I don't even remember. What was the trailer last year? There's a trailer that came out last year during the Super Bowl that as soon as it came out, I was like, screw this game. And I just watched like the trailer like for the rest of the game. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, Deadpool Wolverine.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember. Because I kind of blacked out during the game. And so like all commercials to me, like I didn't pay attention at all. And finally, Buffalo Wild Wings is bringing back its popular Super Bowl promotion, offering free wings if the game goes into overtime. Of course, last year's game went into overtime, but if this year's game in New Orleans goes in overtime, fans can score 6 free boneless or traditional wings on Monday, February 24th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. local time. The offer is available for dine-in and personal takeout only, making it the perfect opportunity for football fans to celebrate an intense game with some free wings.
You know, I don't mind B-dubs, but I hate their commercials. I hate that Buffalo, the talking Buffalo. Yeah, I can't stand that stupid thing.
So if you are an innocent bystander to this whole thing and don't care about either team, root for overtime like last year, unfortunately. All right, that's going to do it. Tomorrow on Friday's show, we got Chris Hodge joining us, taking Vegas. Also, we'll have Cynthia Freeland join the show as well, getting you ready for Super Bowl 59. Until then, Lakers basketball tonight, 7 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. In the meantime, have a great rest of your night, everybody.